Chapter 1934. Shangliu. Hearing this name, Fire Cloud Evil God couldn't help but frown. As one of the top advisors of the administration, he naturally had access to a large amount of Kelowna's secret. Warriors weren't necessarily born intelligent, but at his level of strength, his sixth senses would naturally be incomparably powerful. His memories instantly became clear because of Shangliu's name. It was said that because they were dissatisfied with the current state of the Yao race, the Shangliu race, as a branch of the ancient Yao race, once launched a revolutionary movement. This movement ultimately ended in the Shangliu race's crushing defeat. In the end, the Shangliu race used their achievements since ancient times in exchange for the last bit of their bloodline, but the last bit of their bloodline had to be expelled from Kelowna forever. This matter was personally handled by Shinryu of Kelowna. Since then, there had been no more news about the Shangliu race. "You're Shangliu?" Fire Cloud Evil God probed, "the last descendant of the Shangliu race that was expelled back then? How come you're here?" The kind-looking man's gaze was calm. He even put his palms together in front of his chest, looking like a senior monk who had been deeply influenced by Buddhism. He slowly said, "Since you know about the Shangliu race, your origin must not be simple. You don't have any Yao Qi or magic power. This is the true power of a warrior. I once heard that there was a powerful warrior in Kelowna who challenged the Daoyao alliance by himself, called Fire Cloud. You must be Sir." "That's right." Fire Cloud Evil God said indifferently, then said, "You should never be allowed to step into Kelowna. Why are you in this underground spirit vein river?" Shangliu calmly said, "About a year ago, because I coveted the power of the earth vein here, I tried in vain to use the power of the earth vein to transform. In the end, I failed and was then trapped here to repent of my past and purify the evil in my heart." Fire Cloud Evil God frowned. "Who imprisoned you here?" "I can't mention its name." Xiang Lu smiled. "But maybe you have the answer in your heart. Could it be Shinryu?" Fire Cloud Evil God muttered. This was the most reasonable reason he could think of. Originally, this city was Long Shirua's territory. This Xiang Lu is really an iron-headed kid who wants to do evil in the territory of Kelowna Shinryu. A year ago, there was no forbidden spell here, so he dared to be presumptuous. These chains. Fire Cloud Evil God looked around at the chains that were still pointing at him. They gave him a strange and terrifying feeling all the time. "They are here to watch over me," Xiang Lu said calmly. "Of course, they also want to guard this place. They will not take the initiative to attack anyone unless the other party comes with bad intentions." "Very powerful?" Fire Cloud Evil God narrowed his eyes. "It's better to give it a try than to say so." Xiang Lu smiled and said, "You look calm, but your heart is higher than the sky. All warriors have such arrogance. You can give it a try." "I'm really a bit interesting." Fire Cloud Evil God chuckled. He directly threw out a palm, condensing a cyclone in his palm with his supreme true power. Like a palm covered with heavy armor, it fiercely hit one of the chains. However, this palm with great power couldn't break the chain. It was an equal match. But this was only one of the hundreds of chains. Fire Cloud Evil God's face changed slightly. He withdrew his palm and stepped back, looking at the chains in surprise. However, these chains didn't chase him, but still slowly flowed around Xiang Lu. Fire Cloud Evil God's eyes flashed a fierce light. He waved his left hand, and a faint roar of a tiger came out. He slowly raised his left arm, as if it was a peerless, murderous blade. In the middle of the chain flow, Xiang Lu, who was sitting quietly with his hands clasped together, showed a touch of surprise in his eyes. Then he frowned and muttered to himself, "This looks like Tiger Soul Blade?" A terrible sword light gathered on his left arm, and a huge fighting spirit surged out of Fire Cloud Evil God's body. The long river of spiritual energy, at this time, showed a partial boiling, and this boiling even spread crazily all the way. At this time, The left arm that should have been chopped off didn't come out. A drop of cold sweat slowly dripped down from the back of Fire Cloud Evil God's neck. Beside him, the awls at the front of hundreds of chains had already pointed at all the major acupoints on his body at the moment he couldn't react. They were only a few centimeters away from piercing his skin. From top to bottom, as long as he made the slightest movement, he would directly crash into the drill of these chains. He even seemed to see the bloody scene of his body being directly penetrated by these drill bits, turning into a sieve. The image that lingered in his mind made Fire Cloud Evil God's breathing quicken uncontrollably. The second drop of cold sweat slowly flowed down, the monstrous fierce flame on Fire Cloud Evil God's body subsided little by little, the sword light on his left arm also weakened, and the boiling river of spiritual energy also gradually calmed down. Until everything calmed down, the awls of the chain flow slowly retreated from Fire Cloud Evil God's body, and they resumed their flow. They slowly flowed around Xiang Lu, making a crisp sound. Was this really set up by Kelowna Shinryu? Fire Cloud Evil God didn't say anything even though doubts arose in his heart. After regaining his composure, he said in a very straightforward manner, "You're right. These chains are indeed very strange. If I use too much force, it won't be good for this long river of spiritual aura. Let's drop the matter. You can go." Xiang Lu said slowly, "This is not the place for you to come. Don't disturb my meditation." Fire Cloud Evil God pondered for a while. "It seems that being trapped here has changed you a lot?" Xiang Lu shook his head. "The spiritual energy here is very pure. Letting this spiritual energy cleanse my soul every day can indeed bring me peace. During this time, the more I think about the past, the more I can feel peace in my heart." Fire Cloud Evil God said dubiously, "Anyway, it's a good thing. Although I'm not very clear about the cause and effect, but since you can find peace in your heart, it proves that the method of trapping you here is effective." Xiang Lu smiled, very indifferently. "Then, I won't disturb you." Fire Cloud Evil God directly cupped his hands. Xiang Lu suddenly asked, "Before you go, can you tell me what happened outside? Since you're here to give up the past and reflect on your mistakes, why do you still care about the things outside?" Fire Cloud Evil God said indifferently, "There are still some things that I can't let go of." Xiang Lu gave a wry smile. "Outside, there is an organization called Michael Club. I was caught by the members of this organization. After they did some inhuman research on me, they have obtained the secret of rebirth of our Xiang Lu family, and created a terrible creature. Believe me, this organization is not as simple as people who already know about it imagine. Any information you have about this organization is just the tip of the iceberg." "Club?" Fire Cloud Evil God frowned. "About this club, we have also noticed. But the Wu Club has never been active in Kelowna. At least, they don't dare to move around in Kelowna with their extraordinary power." "I believe you." Xiang Lu smiled. "I also believe in the deterrent power of Shinryu in Kelowna. But it's better to be more careful. Enemies hiding in the dark, especially those who are silent, once they move, it will be a fatal blow. Prometheus, maybe it won't be long before you know how terrible this creature is." "Prometheus?" "It's a kind of creature that is created with the rebirth power of Xiang Lu, mixed with the genes of many different creatures, even monsters and demon beasts. It has unlimited reproduction and is not afraid of death. After all, this kind of creature is created with the genes of Xiang Lu family. If they do evil, I will also be responsible for it. About this, I will investigate it clearly." Fire Cloud Evil God nodded. "Thank you for your reminder. Can you tell me more about the club?" Xiang Lu waved his hand, and the surrounding aura condensed into a jade-like object in his hand, shooting it directly into Fire Cloud Evil God's hand. "Everything I know about the club is recorded in it. You can take it." Xiang Lu said indifferently, "I'm going to continue my meditation." Fire Cloud Evil God squeezed the jade slip in his hand and nodded. "In that case, I'll take my leave." With that, Fire Cloud Evil God cupped his hands again. If I have time, I'll come and have a drink with you. Xiang Lu calmly watched Fire Cloud Evil God leave, as if he didn't want to leave. He fell into the eternal tranquility of the Aura River again, and then started to recite the Heart Sutra. He had been reciting all the Heart Sutras of Buddhism, and even the Heart Sutra of Taoism. The pure aura kept cleansing his state of mind. He became calmer, and the merciful look on his face became more and more intense. However, the chains in the surroundings were still flowing, emitting a rhythmic, crisp sound. Stop it! Stop! Stop! Xiang Lu suddenly opened his eyes. There was no merciful look on his face, but clearly, he was like a devil from hell. He charged around like a madman. Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! How long do you want to keep me here? I've already repented. I've been reciting it every day, every hour, every moment. I'm incomparably peaceful. I even worried about Kelowna's safety, so I gave Fire Cloud a hint. I've been like this, why don't you stop? What do you want to do to let me go? Stop it! At this time, Xiang Lu was like a beast, staring at the chains that were not affected at all and continued to flow. Suddenly, Xiang Lu raised his hands, fiercely piercing his own ears with his fingers. It seemed that he couldn't hear anything for a moment. The whole world was quiet. Quiet. Xiang Lu sat still, even though his ears were bleeding. There was a satisfied smile on his face. Rustle! 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 His face suddenly changed. The sound of the chains flowing and hitting sounded again. The powerful rebirth power of Xiang Lu's family, in the environment of the Aura River, instantly healed his pierced ears. Ah! He had to crazily pierce his ears again, hoping that he could not hear the sound of the chains. But, repair, pierce, repair, pierce, he crazily repeated. Please, don't move anymore. Stop. Stop it. Xiao Bao was slacking in the office. In order to slack, he even developed a new way of slacking. That was, he hung the power cable of the computer between two tables, the kind that could be kicked open when the door was opened. It worked every time. Even if he was busy with work, he would slack even if he died. Your man doesn't want you anymore. It's so King Fierce, rushing to such a high ranking. After finishing a game, Xiao Bao leaned on the back of the chair, as if he had been squeezed dry. It's almost catching up with Brother Xiao and his wife. But the screen turned black instantly. Xiao Bao was stunned. Then, with his acting skills, he grabbed his hair and stood up like a madman. I've been doing reports all day. Officer Lin at the door said angrily, Do you still need to use this trick? Xiao Bao shrugged, sitting down angrily and restarting the computer. I'm very busy, I don't have time to help you. Don't be like that. Lin Feng walked over with a smile, sitting directly on the table. Have you found anything new from the certificate collection at noon? Not yet. Xiao Bao shook his head. Not yet. Lin Feng said unbelievably, It's a priority? It's my priority. It's all King priority. Xiao Bao said angrily, Anyway, I can't finish it alone. I've been living in the office every day, but I can't finish it. I quit. I'm already like this, but you still won't let me go. Fire me if you have the ability. You must be kidding. If Officer Lin had the power, he would have fired this guy who slacked off every day. Do me a favor? It's not that I don't want to help you. Xiao Bao shook his head. I've already written a resignation letter. This place is really not suitable for people to stay. You see, I'm obviously getting such a good salary, but I don't even have a girlfriend except for slacking off at work. I don't have one either. Anyway, I quit. If you want the information, just follow the order. Wait for 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 days. Are you going to help me or not? Officer Lin suddenly pulled a long face. No. Just wait. Officer Lin directly used the deadly choke taught by Officer Ma, directly strangling Xiao Bao's neck with his elbow, and pressed him on the table. What about now? Xiao Bao didn't want to be outdone. He directly turned back, pulling the hair under Officer Lin's armpit and poking his nose. So on and so forth. The door of the office was suddenly pushed open, and then a figure came in. White long coat, neat short hair, and a delicate face. Did I come in at a bad time? Gay and gay? Xiao Bao and Lin Feng, who were wrestling, suddenly stunned. Xiao Bao suddenly pushed Lin Feng away, and instantly ran over with snot and tears with an aggrieved look. Dr. Nan. You're finally back. Nan Xiaonan in front of the door just smiled, and after avoiding Xiao Bao's hug, she said casually, Yes, I'm back from vacation. Chapter 1935. The reason why he chose to return to work at this time was because he had no other choice. Ever since this witch of the academic school was abandoned by Boss Luo in Mr. Wally's castle, she had returned to a standalone state. Tang Tianlin had been kidnapped by Gongsun Ernyang, and no one knew whether he was dead or alive. Nan Xiaonan naturally had no intention of rescuing him, but the problem was that she couldn't always stay abroad by herself. She heard that the extraordinary summit meeting was going to be held in the city where she worked as a forensic doctor. How could she still sit still? With such big news, the future boss and future lady boss wouldn't miss it, right? Besides, this city was where Mr. Luo had been living in seclusion. Nan Xiaonan even thought that there was a 99.9% possibility that Mr. Luo was the one who made the ban in this city. She hadn't found the door with the key in hand, so she had to come back and get as close to the summit meeting as possible. Ordinary people couldn't do it, and it was inconvenient to do anything in the Forbidden City. At this time, an official identity was very useful. Of course, the identity of a forensic doctor was useless for the summit meeting, but it was better than being a passerby, right? The attack on the guest house? Yes, I heard that it was one of the ghost houses that hosted foreign missions. Officer Lin is looking for me because he wants to see if there are any clues. Xiao Bao said in detail. Nan Xiaonan said angrily, We are forensic doctors, not forensic doctors? There are not enough people in the bureau, and I have to work in 2 departments. Xiao Bao shrugged. Lady Nan, since you are back, I may have to work in the forensic department. Oh, then you go. Nan Xiaonan nodded. Xiao Bao opened his eyes wide. He couldn't go. How could he slack off at work if he went there? Wasn't the reason why he accepted this arrangement because there weren't many people in the office? Lady Nan, without me, who will make you coffee? Who will buy you food? Who will sweep the floor for you? Who? Then go to East Street and buy me a cup of milk tea. Then go to the online celebrity shop in South District and buy me a chocolate cake. Oh, and I just came back. I haven't cleaned the house yet. Is this the key? Are you human? I'd better do the ballistic test for Officer Lin. Xiao Bao floated out with a sad face. Nan Xiaonan looked at the empty office. Awesome. She tapped her fingers on the table and suddenly picked up the phone. How could she find Mr. Luo? The best way was to beat around the bush, or pretend that it was an accidental encounter. It was impossible for them to meet by chance. How could that indescribable existence not know what they were thinking? They could only beat around the bush. It was Auntie Ren. Lady Nan. It's really you. Where did you go? Why did you suddenly say you were on vacation? Because Nan Xiaonan had once stayed in their house for a few days, and because she was also a professional woman, Auntie Ren inexplicably had a good impression of Nan Xiaonan. Besides, as a reporter, Auntie Ren was also looking forward to digging out a lot of first-hand exclusive information from Nan Xiaonan, who was a forensic doctor. Yes, I just came back. Nan Xiaonan thought for a while and said, Sister Ren, how are you? So many things have happened recently. I'm fine, Auntie Ren said quickly, but I'm not free now. I'm at the summit meeting. There are leaders coming to check. I'll hang up now. Talk to you later? Okay. After the phone was hung up, Nan Xiaonan fell into contemplation. She played with the key given by Mr. Luo and muttered, "If I remember correctly, Ren Xiling is just a tabloid reporter. How did this third-rate tabloid reporter get into such an important occasion?" Sure enough, it was arranged by the will of the universe. Pa. The key in her hand fell to the ground. Nan Xiaonan bent down to pick up the key on the ground subconsciously. Suddenly, she had a flash of inspiration. Key, could it be it's not that simple? Ding dong, ding dong. The doorbell rang one after another. After a while, the back door of the pet hospital opened slowly and reluctantly, just like Long Shirua's expression when she opened the door. Looking at Long Shirua, who looked like she saw her enemy and couldn't wait to tear her apart, Fire Cloud Evil God's heart skipped a beat subconsciously. Lord Long, did I come at the wrong time? Yes, it's not the right time. Goodbye. Seeing Kelowna's Shinryu closing the door without saying anything, Fire Cloud Evil God could only helplessly reach out to block it. However, Long Shirua looked like she was determined to close the door. She simply ignored the hand and pushed the door down fiercely. As an ultimate warrior, how could she be injured just because she was caught by the door? Ouch, ouch, ouch. Lord Long, have mercy. Spit it out. Indeed, can you let me in first? Fire Cloud Evil God smiled bitterly. Long Shirua reluctantly opened the door and looked Fire Cloud Evil God up and down. Why are you here? Didn't that crazy guy come to you? What kind of crazy guy is that? I went out early in the morning and just came back from outside the city. Oh, it's okay. Long Shirua shrugged, then leaned against the door frame and crossed her arms. Say it. You don't come here without a reason. Fire Cloud Evil God's face suddenly became serious. Actually, I went to Longtu Mountain and saw a guy. Xiang Lu. Kelowna's Shinryu couldn't help but frown slightly. She didn't say anything, but turned and went back into the house, leaving the door open. Tap water. The way of hospitality. After that, Kelowna's Shinryu crossed her arms and sat on the sofa. Say it. What do you want to ask? Fire Cloud Evil God looked at the glass full of water and didn't intend to do anything. He just said slowly, I wanted to investigate the restrictive spell in the city, so I thought. He was interrupted. You think it's caused by the changes in the underground spirit vein, right? Long Shirua retorted. You're not too stupid to think of that. But you're wrong. This matter is more or less related to the spirit vein, but the restrictive spell isn't caused by the changes in the spirit vein. It's something else. So, Lord Long does know the real reason for the restrictive spell. Fire Cloud Evil God frowned. Long Shirua said, I don't have a definite answer and I can't tell you. It's not good for you, but bad for you. For this matter, I can only say that the restrictive spell is to protect the peace and daily life of this land. Besides that, there's no conspiracy as you think. Fire Cloud Evil God was silent for a while, and then smiled slightly. Since Shinryu said so, I'm relieved. Let's not talk about the restrictive spell first. But there's one thing I heard from Xiang Lu. It's about a mysterious club, Michael Club. Long Shirua couldn't help frowning. Xiang Lu told you. He told you this? Not only told me. Fire Cloud Evil God took out a piece of jade slip. Here, it records everything Xiang Lu knows about this club. Of course, we can't read it in the city for the time being, but on the way back, I've read it once and memorized it. With that, Fire Cloud Evil God directly handed the jade slip to Long Shirua. Kelowna Shinryu rubbed the jade slip in her hand and said with a strange expression, He really told you everything? Why? Fire Cloud Evil God said indifferently, I saw his kind face. I think he's been imprisoned in the Reiki River and has been cleansed by the pure Reiki every day, so he's turned over a new leaf. He gave it to me as if to atone for what he did in the past. Lord Long, don't you know? You haven't seen him for a long time, right? Humph, who said that? Long Shirua snorted. No. Not even once. I almost forgot that this guy was imprisoned. Fire Cloud Evil God shook his head, and then said in a low voice, Lord Long, how much do you know about this club? Tell me about you first. Long Shirua said indifferently. Fire Cloud Evil God didn't beat around the bush, and said directly, in fact, a long time ago, the administration had observed the existence of such a mysterious organization abroad. At the very beginning, this organization was only active with the power of the secular world. Later, it began to develop a new drug called Heaven's Tears, and crazily amassed wealth, and even entered our country. But I don't know why, a year ago, this club suddenly stopped a series of actions, as if it had disappeared from the world. He observed Long Shirua's expression, but found nothing, so he continued, Until I got this information from Xiang Lu, I was really shocked by the forbearance and horror of this club. It's impossible to know how long the club has existed. There are a total of 26 leaders named by tarot cards in the club, who are the top managers, and there are 12 powerful immortal generals under them. According to Xiang Lu's memory, when he was in the club at that time, he was just a senior cadre. In addition, since the beginning of the modern century, this club has been constantly recruiting top researchers, and has been secretly developing various new technologies. According to Xiang Lu's observation, the club's technological level is at least 100 years ahead of the current human. This club seems to have different degrees of penetration in the world outside Kelowna, but so far, no one knows what this club is planning. According to their internal statement, it seems that they want to create a new world. This club. Long Shirua thought for a while and said, Not long ago, they attacked the Magician Association and almost destroyed it. And the one who launched this attack was the first tower owner of the Magician Association, who was the teacher of the current tower owner of Radiance Tower. He is also one of the 26 seat. Fire Cloud Evil God's eyes narrowed. Is this true? Whether it's true or not, you can check it yourself. Long Shirua said indifferently, but because of this incident, the Magician Association has started to fight back against this club. If it wasn't for the summit in Kelowna, the Magician Association might have already taken action. Lord Long, do you know more about this club? I don't necessarily know more than you. Then what is recorded in this jade slip? Long Shirua shook her head. But no matter what, as long as this club doesn't make trouble in Kelowna, they can do whatever they want outside. Someone will deal with them. Long Shirua wondered if Suzy Juan had gone to the door. It had been so long, but there was no news. Long Shirua wondered. Fire Cloud Evil God didn't comment. As the Shinryu of Kelowna, Long Shirua had such an attitude, because things outside of Kelowna were indeed beyond the scope of Long Shirua's original responsibilities. Fire Cloud Evil God smiled. Now that I think about it, it's really a blessing for the people of Kelowna to have the Lord Long in charge of Kelowna. Don't flatter me. Long Shirua rolled her eyes and said, I'm still waiting for you to give me an explanation. You said it yourself, if you don't give me an explanation for injuring that old fox, you'll come to my door and let me beat you up. I suddenly remembered something. Fire Cloud Evil God's old face was about to crumble, and he wanted to leave. Wait. Long Shirua suddenly thought of something, and instantly ran upstairs, then came back with a crumpled A4 paper, and threw it to Fire Cloud Evil God. Take this back and read it first. I was going to mention it on the last day of the meeting, but since you're here today, I might as well let you prepare first. Not only was the paper crumpled, but it was also scribbled on, like a primary school student's homework. Fire Cloud Evil God glanced at the content. Proposal on the limited establishment of a new type of special demon autonomous region. Lord Long, the human race is rising, and the demon race's destiny is declining, but declining doesn't mean that it completely disappeared. Long Shirua said indifferently, I'm the Shinryu of Kelowna, not the human race's Shinryu. This city was originally my territory. You already have an impregnable capital, that's more or less enough. Don't be too greedy. Fire Cloud Evil God's heart really skipped a beat. Even now in this city where magic was forbidden, Fire Cloud Evil God left the pet hospital with a trace of melancholy. He didn't dare to stay any longer, because no one wanted to really annoy this Shinryu of Kelowna. The administration was just testing Long Shirua's bottom line. It seemed that the bottom line was about to be seen. She seemed to be doing nothing, but she knew it better than anyone. She knew it clearly in her heart. Before leaving, Long Shirua suddenly shouted, "By the way, when you saw Xiang Lu, were those chains still there?" Fire Cloud Evil God was stunned. "Yes, I couldn't break it. Is there any problem?" "Nothing," Long Shirua said indifferently. "It just shows that Xiang Lu is still a trash. If he didn't really change himself, those chains would never disappear." The Shinryu of Kelowna smiled. "Even if it's me, even if I use Jiuzhou Xianyuan, I can't break it." Shinryu didn't lie, nor did he scare. Fire Cloud Evil God could be sure of this. The city's forbidden law, was there someone else? Fire Cloud Evil God suddenly felt a chill all over his body. "Master, in our world, is there someone more powerful than the Shinryu of Kelowna?" He suddenly remembered Yen Xiaoxi's question. Chapter 1936. An ordinary person's day would pass quickly. Perhaps as long as they were engrossed in the short videos on their mobile phones, a few hours would pass unknowingly. However, for some people, even 10 minutes was quite precious. Yen Xiaoxi and Bu Bugao's meeting was only 10 minutes. For a rookie agent like Bu Bugao, who had only debuted for half a year, this was already a great honor. In order to meet Section Chief Yen, Bu Bugao had already made preparations. He even brought the box that Wang Hu brought back. That is to say, the one who tracked down the criminal and brought the box back was a logistics support called Wang Hu. Yen Xiaoxi looked at Bu Bugao. This rookie's resume was already displayed on the computer screen. His back was facing Bu Bugao's screen. There was nothing special about him. His grades were just above the passing line. He was the kind of person who could graduate from school but did not have much talent. As for Wang Hu's information, it was also displayed on the screen. It was a new file. 100-year-old transformed tiger demon. There was nothing special about him. Being able to track down the criminal and seize the weapon used for the attack was probably due to luck. Yen Xiaoxi could not get any useful information from Bu Bugao's description. She could not even determine whether the killing of the black shaman from the non-Middle-earth continent and the attack on the other guest house were done by the same group of people. "Thank you for your hard work." Yen Xiaoxi planned to send Bu Bugao away in less than 10 minutes. No, 3 minutes. "It's not hard, I'm just working for the administration." Bu Bugao was sitting upright at this time, but he touched his head embarrassedly. "Actually, the main attacker this time is Wang Hu. Wang Hu, this big guy, has the ability, but it seems to be a waste to let him be a logistics support. Section Chief Yen, I heard that our bureau has a special promotion channel, especially suitable for some capable talent. I wonder if we can give Wang Hu a chance?" Yen Xiaoxi frowned and did not speak. She just looked at Bu Bugao like this. Bu Bugao opened his mouth and shrunk his neck in awe. He laughed dryly and said, "I'm just curious, just asking." Yen Xiaoxi looked down at the document and said calmly, "If this Wang Hu is really capable, we will not waste his talent. However, since Wang Hu was a demon, the examination would naturally be stricter. But as long as you're willing to contribute to the country, we'll definitely welcome you. If there's nothing else, you can go back to your post. Thank you for coming today, Agent Bu." Bu Bugao could only nod his head stiffly and walk out of the office in a daze. Before he went out, Bu Bugao suddenly remembered something and said, "Oh right, Section Chief, there's one more thing. When Wang Hu brought back this box, there was also a police officer who saw it on the spot. According to him, this weapon seemed to be made temporarily by someone. He said that the murderer might have good explosive skills." Yen Xiaoxi looked up at Bu Bugao expressionlessly. I'm fine. Sorry to disturb you, Chief." Bu Gao quickly opened the door and walked out, then gently closed the door. Explosive skills? Yan Xiaoxi asked with a frown. After a moment of silence, he made a call. The call went straight to several subordinates who were conducting the final security checks at the summit meeting. Chief, what's the matter? How's the investigation going? It's still in progress. Don't worry, we'll definitely check every place clearly. Extend the time of inspection, especially the inspection of explosives. Also, pass down the order to set up another checkpoint at each entrance of the venue. All items entering the venue must be checked for explosives, even if it's a bottle of water, a pack of cigarettes, a stick of lipstick, and even the smallest things can't be missed. Got it, I'll do it right away. Yan Xiaoxi put down the phone. After a while, a subordinate walked in with a document in his hand. This document was sent by the Magician Association. Chief, there's news. The subordinate quickly said, This is the information sent by Miss Yu. It's about the identities of the guys in the photos. Pretty efficient. Yan Xiaoxi chuckled and said, The Magician Association has really sent an outstanding diplomat this time. He took the document from the subordinate's hand and flipped it open. Apart from the information of Black Dragon Audiobook, the information of the other people was also quite detailed. However, Chief Yan's expression gradually turned ugly, especially when he saw the last piece of information. Spirit Witch Jilian, Black Dragon Audiobook Leia, the granddaughter of the late Sword Saint Roland Farrell, one of the 12 knights of the Knight Organization, the most ferocious knight. He had been imprisoned for 100 years and was currently in a state of escape. If it's really this person, I'm afraid we've caught an incredible guy. Yan Xiaoxi sighed slowly. Unlucky. Chief, who exactly is this Farrell? The subordinate was puzzled. I haven't had the time to find out. A ferocious person. Yan Xiaoxi thought for a while and said, A guy who almost destroyed the entire Knight Organization by himself. Because of this guy, Britain's Knight Organization was almost removed from the top supernatural forces in the West. It only recovered a little in the past 20 to 30 years. You see, the non-human world in Eurasia basically doesn't play with Britain much. This is because of the decline of the Knight Organization. This Farrell was once known as the world's strongest knight. The strongest knight? The subordinate was stunned. He asked curiously, How does he compare to the Holy Knights of the Vatican? Yan Xiaoxi said, Let's put it this way. According to the records of the Secret News Division, during Farrell's era, all the experts who claimed to be knights were suppressed by him to the point of being unable to raise their heads. Wherever Farrell appeared, the Holy Knights of the Church would all retreat. He's that strong? Of course, that's just a side account. Yan Xiaoxi said calmly, As for whether Farrell is as strong as the records say, we haven't seen it for ourselves. However, if the guy we caught is really this Farrell, help me contact the ambassador group of the Knight Organization, Yan Xiaoxi said quickly. I hope they can help us confirm Farrell's identity as soon as possible. I'll do it right away. The subordinate hurriedly left. Yan Xiaoxi picked up the document and read it carefully again. She muttered, Now, it's almost confirmed that one of the 2 remaining strong auras in the world belongs to this guy who seems to be Farrell. However, the other aura, could it be one of the 3? A black dragon and a granddaughter of a sword saint. In terms of identity, the possibility of it being Farrell was higher. As for the special profession of the soul witch, it was rarely seen. Just as Yan Xiaoxi was deep in thought, the subordinate quickly came back and told her that the Knight Organization had agreed to help and would send someone over soon. Like a whirlpool, the consciousness was spiraling in the whirlpool. Finally, it was pulled into the dark depths of the sea. It was turbid and suffocating. In a small room filled with various photos and newspaper clippings, Mr. Kim slowly opened his eyes. He was awake. He shook his head hard, then tidied up his appearance. He walked out of the small house and went to the underground workshop outside. The workbench had stopped working. Only one of the 4 people was left sitting in front of the computer, typing on the keyboard. "How long have I slept, Bernard?" Mr. Kim asked directly. Sitting in front of the computer was a man with messy hair, a beard, and a Western face. His age was unknown. He was eating a donut. The man called Bernard turned his head and said, "Less than 2 hours. Where are they?" "They went out," Bernard said. "Lawrence said he was going to buy some materials because you broke his big guy. As for Maeve and Ligua, they went to the venue to observe the terrain. Right, Bibi is still watching the shop upstairs. Do you want a donut?" "I'm not hungry." Mr. Kim shook his head. "I'll go out for a walk too." Bernard nodded and said, "Go ahead. I'll send you the route map of the patrolling policeman nearby. You can check it yourself." Mr. Kim didn't say anything. After climbing out of the underground workshop, he quickly returned to the second-hand electrical appliance shop. The young woman, Bibi, who was watching the shop, was hanging upside down on the shelf, doing abdominal exercises. She was sweating profusely. "Mr. Kim." Bibi nimbly turned over and got down. "I'll go out for a walk and buy some food on the way back. What do you want to eat?" "Ice cream pudding." The girl Bibi smiled and said, "I feel like I can eat 3. As she said this, the girl took out a coat and a hat. She put them on Mr. Kim. They covered the shocking scar on his forehead. Then she said softly, "Be careful." After putting on the hat, he walked out of the street from the front door. The afternoon sun was still a bit bright. Mr. Kim used his palm to block it, but his eyes were almost unable to open. The temperature on the ground was completely different from the temperature in the basement. Some places became hot. There were also the sounds of cicadas. The steam on the road even distorted the air. Patter. Mr. Kim opened a small bottle and popped a small pill into his mouth, as if he was chewing gum. He swallowed it. He frowned and walked alone along the street toward the city center. Many shops had been closed for the past few days. Mr. Kim suddenly stopped. He saw that on the shutter of a closed shop, some cursing words had been sprayed with spray paint at an unknown time. "Go to hell, monster!" Similar graffiti could be seen quite a lot in the streets and alleys. There were even some people who stood in public areas and held loudspeakers to give speeches. Of course, they would soon be chased away by the patrolling police. The more serious ones would be taken away directly. That was why the police in this city were so busy. In just a few months after entering the extraordinary society, they went from being at a loss to resisting. The pain that every new generation had to go through was happening, and it was evolving toward severe pain. Mr. Kim expressionlessly walked past a group of people who were giving speeches. He casually turned into a small alley. In the dark alley there were a few young people. They painted their faces in a strange and terrifying way and made all kinds of strange postures. They were taking pictures of themselves. It seemed like they were cosplaying, but it was also because of some kind of worship, young people who worshipped extraordinary power. They were even willing to give up their loyalty and lives to obtain extraordinary power. Voices of opposition could be seen everywhere. However, there were also many people who yearned for it and were even willing to submit to it. The weather was getting hotter and hotter. Mr. Kim felt a burning pain on his forehead, as if he was being burned by fire. "Uncle, are you interested in us as well?" A young man with dyed green hair, a nose ring, and a self-made steel claw gauntlet on his left hand walked up to Mr. Kim. "Join us. Don't listen to those people outside. This is the extraordinary society. Let me tell you, our boss is a real monster. A real monster." "Monster?" Mr. Kim said indifferently. "Where is it?" The green-haired young man narrowed his eyes and pointed behind him. On the iron stairs outside the house, there was a blond young man who was hugging a coquettish girl. The blond young man was bare-chested. His muscles were well-defined and his face was filled with hostility. His eyes were dark green in color. "He is also a monster," Mr. Kim said indifferently. Mr. Jean said indifferently, I'm afraid that he's neither a human nor a demon. A real demon is not like you, playing house. Boss, this uncle is looking for trouble. The green-haired young man snorted coldly. He sneered and licked the steel claw gauntlet on his hand. I like to teach you self-righteous middle-aged people a lesson. The sharp steel claws viciously swiped at Mr. Kim. Mr. Kim didn't dodge. He stretched out his arm and grabbed the green-haired young man's arm. Then, he twisted it forcefully with a cracking sound. The green-haired young man's arm was twisted. My arm! My arm! The green-haired young man screamed like a pig being slaughtered. He was in so much pain that he broke out in cold sweat. Mr. Kim grabbed the green-haired young man's body and slammed him against the wall. The green-haired young man's body hit the wall, and he felt pain again. But this wasn't the end. Mr. Kim grabbed the young man's hair and slammed his head against the wall again. The young man fell to the ground and lost consciousness. The small groups hiding in this alley looked at this scene in horror. The blonde boss, sitting on the stairs, opened his mouth. Mr. Kim waved his hand and a black short stick slid out of his sleeve. The short stick bounced off instantly, and there was even the sound of electric current flashing at the end. What do you want to do? Don't get me wrong. Mr. Kim walked towards them step by step. I'm going to beat you up now, not because I want to teach you a lesson for your relatives or friends. I just want to beat you up now, that's all. Go. Go. Go together. Quickly and decisively. Mr. Kim took back the electric shock stick and walked out of the alley expressionlessly. Behind him, the small groups of monsters were all lying on the ground. The blonde boss's eyes were swollen, one of his eyes turned back to an ordinary black eyeball, and a contact lens fell on the ground. Humans don't need this kind of uncontrollable power. Mr. Kim blocked the scorching sun with his palm again. It was still difficult for him to open his eyes. He felt more pain on his forehead. It was burning pain. In front of the anti-theft door, Nan Xiaonan was holding the key. Squinting her eyes, she licked her lips and bent down, using the key in her hand to trace the keyhole in front of her. No. Why can't I insert it? Why is the keyhole so narrow? It's not that the narrower the better. The right size is the most comfortable one. Why can't I insert it? Am I wrong? It's not this door at all? This was the anti-theft door of Boss Luo's house. She even wanted to force herself on him, regardless of the consequences, and just stick it in first. What was the right way to do it without using force? Lady Nan, what are you doing? Don't you see? I'm opening. The academic witch in her child world raised her head subconsciously. Who else could it be but the future boss's wife? Boss's wife? Oh, Lady Nan, look, you're talking nonsense again. The servant girl in front of the door smiled slightly. Come in, this key can't open this door. Besides, the master won't give you the key to open this door easily. Nan Xiaonan could only smile embarrassedly, and somewhat regretfully took back the key. Obviously, she had almost inserted it, although she used force. ########## PS1. Yes, it's him again. He temporarily used the evil power of capital to whip me. PS2. Under the Parasol Tree. PS2. Chapter 1937. It was not the first time Nan Xiaonan came to this place. She even stayed here for a few nights, but she didn't dare to be rash and sat straight on the sofa obediently. The TV was off. When she entered the door, she seemed to see Mr. Luo holding the remote control to turn off the TV. Nan Xiaonan didn't think much about it, thinking it was just a courtesy. Guest? She was a guest? Mr. Luo, how long have you been back? She needed to take the initiative to find a topic. This was the best topic. Boss Luo smiled and said, Lady Nan, why did you think of coming here to find me? She didn't expect to find him here so easily. She just wanted to try the key in her hand. She didn't expect to find him by accident. But she couldn't say it now. He had to be deep, intelligent, mysterious, and unfathomable. He had to be valuable. I just wanted to try it. Nan Xiaonan smiled and said, It's reasonable that I didn't find him. It's my luck that I found him. It seems that I'm lucky. Please have some tea. Boss Luo waved his hand and said. Nan Xiaonan was still racking her brains to find a topic. Boss Luo said again, About the key, Lady Nan, do you have a clue? Asking this directly. So sudden? Not yet. Nan Xiaonan said helplessly. Then she said with a correct attitude, But I won't give up. Besides, it's only been a few days. Boss Luo thought for a while and said, I think it's too harsh if I don't give any hint to Lady Nan. You mean? Nan Xiaonan opened her mouth subconsciously. It's here. Boss Luo looked at Nan Xiaonan's eyes and said indifferently, It's in this city, on someone's body. Someone's body. Nan Xiaonan's eyes went blank as if she was frightened. She subconsciously said, Where? Oh, that's not what I meant. I can't say whether it's right or not. The hint ends here. I'll think about it myself, right? However, the scope had been narrowed down from the entire world to this one city, and even narrowed down to a single person. However, for Nan Xiaonan, it was still an extremely difficult task. She couldn't possibly insert them one by one and try to pass through them, right? While Nan Xiaonan was thinking hard, the servant girl suddenly said, I also have a small hint for Lady Nan. She blinked her eyes and hurriedly looked over. Her eyes were clearly brimming with the words, Thank you, Lady Boss. Maybe it's a man. Miss Maid blinked her eyes and said, Oh. It was really a prompt that reduced the range by half again. What's the use of leaps and bounds of improvement? Or maybe, the witch of the subworld's academic school even felt like crying and laughing. She smiled bitterly. Thank you, Miss Yi. You're welcome. Miss Maid nodded elegantly. Then, Lady Nan, work hard. Looking at Miss Maid's smiling face, Nan Xiaonan suddenly froze and immediately reacted. I'll leave first. Let me send you off, Lady Nan. Miss Maid nodded again. So direct. She sent her directly to the door. It took her less than 10 minutes to walk in and sit down. Lady Nan didn't know whether she would gain anything this time. But the future boss and his wife. It was highly likely that the future boss didn't want her to stay for a long time. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing Lady Nan's result as soon as possible. Miss Maid chuckled and sent her off. Then the anti-theft door was closed, and the door inside the anti-theft door was also closed. Nan Xiaonan stood in front of the door in a daze. But at this time, she suddenly found that there was something in her palm. She remembered that she didn't take anything out of the house. Why did something suddenly appear in her palm? Is this the real prompt? Nan Xiaonan held up her palm and carefully looked at the thing in her palm. She was almost sure that this was what the future boss secretly gave her. But what was this? A pill. You seem to like this Lady Nan very much. Boss Luo suddenly laughed. A little. Miss Maid seemed to be in a good mood. Boss Luo stretched out his hand and wiped the tea table. A small pill suddenly appeared on the tea table. Boss Luo picked up the pill with his fingers. He sized it up. Is this also something that came from your hands? He asked curiously. Miss Maid shook her head. It shouldn't be, but it doesn't seem to be something that should exist in this world. There are many things that shouldn't exist here. Boss Luo said indifferently. Maybe it was left for me, maybe for someone else. Master, I should go and prepare dinner. Miss Maid suddenly stood up and said, Miss Ren will come, she should be very tired. I'm going to take a walk outside. Boss Luo nodded and said. She smiled in response. British Night Agency. This time, Gareth, one of the 12 knights, came directly, and he was also the current chief of the Night Agency. Section Chief Yen, where did your agency find him? On the screen in the monitoring room, Mr. Gareth stared at the man in white who was being guarded in an interrogation room. When Gareth and Yen Xiaoxi were observing together, the man in white in the interrogation room suddenly raised his head and looked at the monitoring camera in the room. As if to look at each other. He found out that we were looking at him? Mr. Gareth said in disbelief. A frown creased Yen Xiaoxi's forehead and she said, "All supernatural powers are forbidden. Perhaps it's just his instincts, but if that's the case, he's much more dangerous than we thought." "Of course he's dangerous, he may be the most dangerous man in the world." Mr. Gareth smiled bitterly. "Farrell, sure enough, it's really him." Yen Xiaoxi's expression became more serious again. Mr. Gareth muttered, "Section Chief Yen, although this is not the right time to mention it. Farrell is a felon in Britain after all, and a felon who is on the run. I hope Section Chief Yen can let me extradite him." Yen Xiaoxi said indifferently, "I'm sorry, Mr. Gareth, there are no relevant extradition regulations in our country at the moment, and this person is currently involved in a very nasty murder case. The ones who died were several senior agents of our bureau. We just want to confirm Farrell's identity for everyone in the night agency." "How can that be?" Mr. Gareth's expression changed slightly, and he felt the seriousness of the matter. "Section Chief Yen, this may not be the case now. He was a felon of the night agency, and one of the 12 knights of the former night agency. Now that he was involved in the murder case of an agent of the Shenzhou administration, once the Shenzhou administration believed that this murder case was instigated by the night agency, Britain had just experienced a shock from the night agency, and its vitality was greatly damaged by the rebellion of the former leader, Sir Hopkins. If they became enemies with the Kelowna agency at this time, the situation would be even worse. Originally, there was almost no night agency in the inhuman territory of the entire Eurasian continent. Isolated and without help? Everything is still under speculation. Yen Xiaoxi said indifferently, "Before things are clear, we won't incriminate him, but if Farrell doesn't talk, we can't continue the investigation. Since Mr. Gareth is here, I wonder if you have a way to make him talk?" Mr. Gareth could only bite the bullet and said, "Can I see him?" "Of course." Yen Xiaoxi agreed immediately. The arrangement for the meeting was completed very quickly, and in just a few minutes, Mr. Gareth had already walked into the interrogation room where Farrell was detained. Gareth looked around, and he knew that this room not only had a lot of surveillance cameras, but also a recording device. The conversation here would probably be recorded without missing a word. "Mr. Farrell, I'm Gareth, one of the current 12 knights. Do you remember me?" Mr. Gareth took a deep breath and sat down slowly. "We've met during the riot in Fog City. Did you properly complete the 100,000 swings of the sword every day?" The man in white, Farrell, whose identity had been confirmed, asked directly at this time. "Who could complete that kind of thing properly?" "I'm ashamed." Mr. Gareth's expression was ugly. "After the incident with Sir Hopkins, the person in charge of the night agency fell on my head. Just dealing with official business every day has already made me very busy. I really can't find the time." Farrell closed his eyes directly. Mr. Gareth pondered and said, "Mr. Farrell, you're in a very bad situation now. You've been involved in the murder of a Kelowna agency agent. As far as I know, these agents came to the place where you landed in order to investigate the matter of you destroying the drone. Now that they're dead, I'm afraid the Kelowna agency won't let this go easily. Mr. Farrell, can you provide any information that can prove your innocence?" Farrell still didn't speak. Mr. Gareth was not only anxious, but also agitated. He was so agitated that he couldn't control himself. He lowered his voice and said, "Mr. Farrell, please don't give the night agency any more trouble. The night agency is now in a precarious situation. Because of you, the once glorious night agency has already." Farrell opened his eyes abruptly. Gareth was glanced at and instantly felt cold all over. Farrell said indifferently, "Your so-called glory was created by my own hands, so it's not a problem for me to destroy it personally. If you're unwilling, then go ahead and hate yourself." "Hate yourself? Why hasn't the night agency cultivated a knight who can surpass me after 100 years? Gareth took a deep breath and suppressed his emotions. he said slowly. Now, the Kelowna agency will most likely believe that you're the murderer. If you don't intend to prove yourself, even if we want to, we can't help you. Maybe you don't care about our help at all, but after all, you're one of the 12 knights. The 12 knights are a whole. We won't let their honor be tarnished. Even if we're so unbearable in your eyes, we've already inherited the honor of the 12 knights. We'll never rage or murder, never betray, never be cruel, and we'll forgive those who ask for forgiveness. Farrell said expressionlessly, "How long has it been since you wielded a sword?" Mr. Gareth rose to his feet and turned away. Section Chief Yen, I'm sorry. You've seen it. I'm afraid it's not easy to make Farrell talk. Mr. Gareth said helplessly, but before the matter is clear, I hope Farrell can be treated fairly. Yen Xiaoxi nodded noncommittally and sent him off. But just as Yen Xiaoxi sent Gareth all the way to the door based on the principle of diplomacy, a subordinate ran in frantically. Section Chief. He confessed. He confessed. Speak slowly, make it clear. Yen Xiaoxi frowned. The subordinate calmed down and glanced at Gareth, who was beside Section Chief Yen. He swallowed his saliva and said, Farrell confessed. He admitted that he killed Boss Fu and the others. He also admitted that it was a murder ordered by the Knight Agency. What? Yen Xiaoxi's expression changed. Mr. Gareth opened his mouth and looked around subconsciously. He realized that the agents at the entrance were looking at him in a different way. Some of them had even placed their hands on their waists, where their weapons were. Section Chief Yen, I think there might be something. Is it a misunderstanding? Yen Xiaoxi stared at Gareth and said calmly, Since it's a misunderstanding, it's better to solve it as soon as possible. Mr. Gareth, maybe you should stay here longer. I think you'll cooperate with us, right? The agents of the agency did not approach him. They just put their hands on their waists and did not take out their weapons, but their attitude was very clear. This time, Mr. Gareth had only brought 2 assistants. I'm afraid I don't have a choice. Mr. Gareth smiled bitterly. Maybe I shouldn't have agreed to come and confirm with you. Mr. Gareth, please. Yen Xiaoxi stepped aside. We won't make things difficult for you. I'm back. Hey, Sister Long, you're not playing games. Hearing the little butterfly demon's incredulous voice, Kelowna Shinryu, who was sitting in the living room with a white jade-like object, rolled her eyes and said without thinking, In your eyes, I can't do anything except play games? But Sister Long, you really didn't do anything except play games recently? The true dragon of the divine land heaved a heavy sigh and squinted his eyes. Then, what's the situation with the 2 guys behind you? Let me introduce them. The little butterfly demon said quickly, This is Miss Leia, this is Mr. Ajuan. Then, I plan to temporarily take them in and let them stay here for a few days. Chapter 1938. Want to stay here? Long Shirua looked at Leia and Ajuan. She felt something was wrong with this black-clothed youth. She seemed to have heard of Ajuan's name somewhere, but she couldn't remember it. Kelowna's Shinryu had always been simple, scientific and efficient in distinguishing impressions. Impressions, remembered. Important, recognized. Unimpressions, forgotten. Unimportant, it didn't matter even if you couldn't remember. Trash, go to hell, go to hell. Ajuan was probably classified into the category of unimpressions. Yes, Mr. Ajuan and Miss Leia are really pitiful. Luo Dance nodded. You see, they were kidnapped by a big villain and forced to do things they didn't want to do. Now they can't find their way home, just like homeless kittens outside. Homeless kittens are the reason why you want to take them in? Long Shirua knew clearly that this Zhongshan butterfly wanted to bring stray cats and dogs to the pet hospital every day. 1 or 2 stray cats and dogs were okay, but Luo Dance's attitude was that once this precedent was set, the whole house would be filled with stray cats and dogs in heat. Kindness? This butterfly just likes to do what she likes. She's so pure that it's scary. She's been maintaining this wonderful innocence for a long time. It's probably not just for some reason. Shinryu of Kelowna muttered in his heart, and then looked at Ajuin and the fat girl Leia again. This sword, I don't care. Long Shirua snorted at this time. They can stay here for one night, but they must leave tomorrow. If they don't have money, I'll pay the toll and write an IOU. Great. Luo Dance clapped her hands and said with joy, this is a good start. I'm going upstairs, don't disturb me. Long Shirua shook her head at this time, and went upstairs directly without saying a word to Ajuin and Leia. This is the Shinryu of the East? Otto frowned and said thoughtfully, it doesn't look like much. Compared to the rumors in the inhuman domain, at this moment, Leia quietly tugged at Ajuin's sleeves, hinting him to speak less. Ajuin didn't care about this. He walked in front of the little butterfly demon enthusiastically and said, Miss Luo, thank you so much. If there's anything I can help you with, please don't hesitate to tell me. Then let's clean up together. The little butterfly monster smiled and handed the broom to Ajuin. There are still toilets and courtyards to be cleaned today. Mr. Ajuin, which one do you like? The yard. Audubon hesitated for a moment. The toilet was really, all right. Luo Dance smiled. Thank you, Mr. Ajuin. Miss Leia, do you know how to cut vegetables? I can, division of labor. Then Ajuin hummed a song and came to the courtyard of the pet hospital with the broom in a good mood. He easily saw the rather simple, ugly kennel built by Long Shirua. This smell seems to be Fafner's shit? A pair of beautiful eyes were looking at the black-clothed youth in the courtyard through the gap of the curtain. Kelowna Shinryu quickly withdrew her gaze. Long Shirua shook her head, looking outside the courtyard, and saw a police car speeding by. Something seems to have happened outside. She vaguely had a feeling. However, at this time, Long Shirua's phone was directly called. To her surprise, it was a guy who didn't know how to contact. Baijia Old Taoist? Kelowna Shinryu answered the phone with astonishment. Why are you calling me? What's the matter? Lord Long, please come to Fengdu. The signal on the phone didn't seem to be very good. The Hundred Tribulations Taoist's voice was also intermittent, as if he was disturbed by something urgently. Hellgate. Hurry. Hurry. Long Shirua's eyes fixed, but the phone was directly cut off. She wanted to call back, but it showed that the call couldn't be connected. What's the matter? Kelowna Shinryu's face slightly changed. If it wasn't something important, Baijia Old Taoist wouldn't make this call. Kelowna Shinryu gritted his teeth, putting on his shoes directly, cursing. He really knows how to pick the time. Hey, Sister Long, where are you going? Is the sun going down? Ghost City. Gui City? Half an hour ago. Damn it. Sir Gareth, they have no right to detain us. The two knights who followed looked at Mr. Gareth indignantly. If Mr. Gareth's attitude was firm, the people of Kelowna authority would not really force them to stay. Yes, this is only Farrell's side of the story. He is our traitor, and his testimony is not credible at all. It's all unfairness. Mr. Gareth waved his hand, calming down the emotional subordinates. Unfair treatment will not be without reason. There will always be a reason behind this kind of unfair treatment. Could it be that Kelowna authority is doing this on purpose? The subordinates said in disbelief. For what? During this sensitive period? Who knows? Mr. Gareth smiled casually. But this is not necessarily a bad thing. At least, we already know Farrell's current location. So what? Looking at the attitude of Kelowna authority, they will not easily let us extradite him. Then let's take Farrell away. Mr. Gareth said suddenly. The two loyal subordinates were shocked at this time. At this time, Mr. Gareth intentionally or unintentionally moved closer and said in a low voice, "We must take Farrell away. We can't let Farrell's secret be discovered by the people of the Shenzhou administration." What secret? Mr. Gareth said expressionlessly. The reason why he can be so powerful. Farrell has the highest and only power of our night organization. which can fight against the entire European continent and even the world's power. Unexpectedly, the two subordinates opened their eyes wide in an instant. At this time, the door of the reception room opened, and a total of 4 agents of the authority came in. "I'm sorry, everyone, but you have to stay here for the time being. If there's anything you need, you can tell us." Just in time. Mr. Gareth walked in with a smile. "We do need some food and drinks." Mr. Gareth walked in front of the agent and suddenly waved his hand to hit the agent's temple. His move was as fast as lightning, and the huge impact knocked the agent out instantly. The remaining 3 investigators reacted instinctively, but the other 2 knight subordinates also went berserk at the same time. Within a few seconds, the 4 investigators had already fainted on the ground. "Mr. Gareth, if we can't handle it, we don't care so much." Gareth began to take out the agent's passes and said quickly, "As long as we can take Farrell away, it's worth it even if we don't participate in this meeting. You don't understand how important the power hidden in Farrell is to us." The alarm suddenly sounded. The entire temporary headquarters building sounded the alarm. It was the sound of a fire alarm. At the same time, 2 consecutive floors exploded almost at the same time, suspected to be under attack. Under the state where all extraordinary powers were banned, the Kelowna authority seemed to have a hard time quickly locking the enemy's position with lightning speed. Everyone was pulled down to the level of an ordinary person, although this ordinary person's level was different from each other. What happened? Go out and take a look. In the interrogation room, there were still 4 heavily armed agents guarding Farrell. At this time, the alarm sounded, and the 4 agents suddenly became nervous. However, the moment the door was opened, a few shock-wave-like lights directly shot into the room, and the agents in the interrogation room were knocked to the ground. After twitching a few times, they fainted. At this time, Gareth was holding a gun specially made by the authority, and walked in quickly. Farrell, who was resting with his eyes closed, slowly opened his eyes. "Mr. Farrell." Mr. Gareth smiled and said, "I recently changed to holding a gun instead of a sword." Yen Xiaoxi walked in the corridor filled with thick smoke and sprinkled water, her face pale. A message was delivered to her almost at the same time. Section Chief Yen of the authority glanced at it, and then turned around with a cold face, staring at the agents behind him in awe. "Search the entire city. None of the British envoys are allowed to leave the hotel." Section Chief Yen finished expressionlessly, and then directly pushed away his subordinates behind him, and said in a deep voice, "Bring me my equipment." At this time, an official car was running at high speed on the road, and even ran through one red light after another. "This won't do, the metal used for these shackles is very special, there's no way to pry it open." In the official car, except for the knight who was driving, Gareth and the other knights were sitting at the back with Farrell, trying to find a way to open the shackles on Farrell. "Don't bother, as long as we leave the city, I can open it myself," Farrell said calmly. "Looks like that's the only way." Mr. Gareth nodded. "Sorry to trouble you, Mr. Farrell," Farrell said calmly. "I've lived in a British prison for 100 years, this is nothing compared to that." Mr. Gareth received a call from the Knight Organization's envoys. The Kelowna Authority has already surrounded the Knight Organization's envoys in the hotel. Mr. Gareth took a deep breath and said, "I hope my adventure this time is worth it. Mr. Farrell, you've caused us a lot of trouble. Why did you confess to murder and tell the authority that the Knight Organization was behind this?" "I don't want to trouble you," Farrell said calmly. "I didn't kill anyone, nor did I see them." "Then why did you?" Gareth frowned. "Someone deliberately framed you behind your back. Is it to provoke a conflict between the transcendence of the two countries?" "You brought me out, so the conflict has already appeared," Farrell said calmly. "But it doesn't matter, the worse the environment, the more powerful warriors can be trained. You lack the baptism of war. Maybe the other side is the same." Mr. Gareth smiled bitterly and said, "Even if I know it's a framing, I have no choice but to take you away. Mr. Farrell, you're too important to us. I can't let any possibility of exposing your secret appear. Even if I know it will cause a serious diplomatic incident, I can't care so much." Farrell was silent, but he gave Gareth a strange look. Mr. Gareth said again, "When we leave the city and recover our strength, I'll immediately take you back to Britain. The sooner the better, there's no time for us to hide." Before the delegation entered the city, I've secretly arranged for a few people to stay in a house outside the city to deal with unexpected situations. They can be used now. Mr. Gareth, we're lucky that the authority didn't catch up with us. They were already on the road to the suburbs, and the commercial car was still running fast on the path with some fields in sight. The knight driving the car turned back and chuckled. "It's all thanks to this communicator. The agents of the authority don't look like much. They've been using the public channel to communicate, so we can avoid their pursuit. It's a pity for our partners. I hope they won't be troubled while trapped." Things went too smoothly. Mr. Gareth frowned and said, "Although we suddenly took Mr. Farrell away and caught the authority off guard, it went too smoothly. I don't think the authority has the ability to imagine." The subordinate driving the car said disapprovingly, "It's said that the East is a terrible place. I think this is only because the East has Shinryu. However, the overly powerful deterrence also severely restricted their development as transcendent. Perhaps it's just that we've always lacked a correct understanding of the authority, and we've imagined them to be too powerful." Mr. Gareth didn't speak, but he stared ahead. A lonely two-story building appeared in front of them. "We're here." The official car soon arrived in front of the small building. Everyone got out of the car and looked around, but it was desolate. The small building looked more like it had been abandoned, and it didn't look like anyone lived here. No one would have thought that there were still people hiding here. "Isn't it too quiet?" The subordinate frowned at this time. After walking out of the city, the extraordinary power in their bodies had recovered, and their perception had become stronger again. Mr. Gareth frowned, but at this time, he stopped the car. He walked to the door alone and pushed it gently. The unlocked door panel slowly opened, and inside was an empty hall. Mr. Gareth knocked on the door panel in a special way at this time. In the empty hall, the floorboards suddenly moved and slowly opened. Mr. Gareth's eyes focused, and he saw a cold light flying directly toward him. Gareth's face changed, and he dodged quickly. The cold light flashed and directly hit the wall of the small building behind Gareth, and they all fell down in an instant. "Ambush!" Gareth shouted at this time. At the same time, in the courtyard, a dozen figures emerged from the ground in an instant and surrounded the four people in an instant. These people were all equipped with special weapons and black helmet. At this time, in the living room of the small building, a figure had also walked out. This person was also wearing a black helmet, and his hands were holding a strange-looking silver spear as he slowly walked out. The three people of the night mechanism were now protecting Farrell in the center, and Gareth's eyes were locked on the other side. "Presumably, my subordinates have already suffered, right? It's great that so many people are here to welcome us. However, I'm afraid it's unrealistic to want to keep us here. This place is already out of the forbidden area." It was a processed voice that came from the black helmet. "Mr. Gareth, you're proud of your strength as the 12 Knights, right?" Gareth chuckled and waved his hand. A unique coat of arms appeared on the back of his hand. But at the same time, the dozen heavy armored people surrounding the four people also took out a short stick the length of a palm, and at the same time, raised it high to the sky. The short stick emitted light, and finally gathered above everyone's heads. At the same time, a slight vibration appeared, and the entire sky above the small building was instantly covered by electric light. The coat of arms on the back of Mr. Gareth's hand dimmed little by little. His expression couldn't help but change slightly, until the battle patterns of the 12 Knights' power completely dimmed. "Forbidden?" Mr. Gareth was instantly shocked. The leader of the black armored people said indifferently, It can't compare to this city's forbidden area, but it can slightly disrupt the flow of magic in your body. However, it's enough. The leader of the black armored people waved his hand, and the dozen or so black armored people instantly moved. The weapons in their hands were about to fire. Gareth, who couldn't successfully put on the 12 knights' armor, couldn't help but have a dignified expression when facing these weapons. It may not be difficult for you to avoid them. I just don't know how your two subordinates are doing. The leader of the black armored people chuckled. Mr. Gareth, our goal is only feral. As long as you're willing to cooperate, I won't make things difficult for you. The enemy approached step by step, and Mr. Gareth's expression became more and more dignified. Sir, if you want someone to cooperate, you should at least show some basic sincerity. I don't even know your identities. You will know as long as you agree to cooperate. The leader of the black armored people said indifferently. I know who you are. Mr. Gareth suddenly said at this time. Then tell me. The leader of the black armored people tilted his head, but raised the silver special long gun and aimed. If you're right, I'll shoot once. If you're wrong, I'll shoot twice. Relax, this isn't fair treatment. Mr. Gareth raised his hands at this time, surrendering. As the representative of Britain's transcendent diplomatic corps, I request to be treated fairly. Representative of the diplomatic corps? The leader of the black armored people laughed. You're now the criminals who kidnapped the suspects from the Kelowna administration. Soon not. Mr. Gareth smiled mysteriously at this time. The leader of the black armored people paused, and then said in a deep voice, Capture them, as long as they're alive. Almost at the same time as the leader of the black armored people gave the order, the dozen or so black armored people pulled the triggers of the weapons in their hands, and in a split second, beams of light poured directly on the bodies of Gareth and the other three. This round of shooting lasted for nearly 20 seconds, but after the smoke and dust rose, the scene of them falling to the ground was not what the black armored people imagined. Beside Mr. Gareth and the other three, a golden phantom of a pagoda directly appeared. The phantom of the pagoda clearly blocked all the light beams. Luminous Pagoda Mark 6. Impossible, how can you have such a thing? The leader of the black armored people exclaimed in disbelief. This so-called phantom of the Luminous Pagoda Mark 6 actually came from one of Mr. Gareth's subordinate knights. This knight's hands were now opening a strange silver mirror in the shape of 8 trigrams. Nothing is impossible. The knight holding the silver mirror said indifferently, just like the luminous godly flame Mark II you're using now. This is the latest batch of equipment from the Kelowna administration. If you can use it, why can't others use it? Impossible. The 4 guards you knocked down in the command center can't have such equipment. Sir, how do you know how many watchmen we've hit? Mr. Gareth abruptly interrupted him. You seem to be very familiar with the administration, right? Humph. The leader of the black armored people snorted. Don't worry about the Luminous Pagoda Mark. It can't last forever. Increase the firepower. The knight holding the Luminous Pagoda Mark 6 threw the silver mirror to Mr. Gareth's side. At the same time, his figure flashed out and instantly split into 2 phantoms, attacking the leader of the black armored people from both sides. The leader of the black armored people was not too flustered. He reached out his hand and pulled out a sharp metal blade from the silver spear in his hand. Lightning flashed and thunder roared on the blade. The knight who split into 2 phantoms directly punched forward at this time, and the other kicked out with a spinning leg. The leader of the black armored people hit one of the phantoms with his spear, and at the same time, the sharp blade in his hand slashed at the other phantoms. Only a ding sound was heard, and the phantoms of the knight who was slashed by the sharp blade actually blocked it with their arms. The leader of the black armored people was shocked at this time, but the knight had already pressed his palm on the leader's chest. Under the power of the palm, the leader of the black armored people directly flew out. The dozens of black armored people around immediately rushed to attack at this moment, not giving the knight a chance to chase after the leader of the black armored people. But the knight was not in a hurry. He stood still and looked around. In the time it takes for a spark to fly off a piece of flint, a silver light transformed into a vigorous silver dragon, swimming in the middle of the crowd. When the silver dragon stopped, the 10 or so black armored people fell to the ground one after another. A young man with gray hair, wearing a loose hip-hop style short-sleeved shirt and shorts, had already appeared in front of everyone. The hip-hop style young man was even carrying a black spear on his shoulder at this time. The hip-hop style young man smiled brightly at this time, waving his hand and saying, "Yo, I came at the right time, right?" Only the leader of the black armored people who was knocked down was left. The leader of the black armored people climbed up in a sorry state, looking at the young man with the black spear, saying in horror, "God petrifying spear 2 Kai. Why are you here? Impossible, why are you here?" The young man named 2 Kai shrugged and said with a smile, "Why can't I be here? My master is here, my junior brother is here too, is it strange for me to be here?" While saying this, the young man looked at the knight who knocked down the leader of the black armored people with one palm. The leader of the black armored people at this time looked at this powerful knight in horror, saying in a trembling voice, You are? Junior brother Yen, how long are you going to wear this human skin mask? The young man squinted his eyes and said with a smile, "Your original appearance is much more handsome." Knight. The knight who took out the Dao Light Pagoda Type 6 stretched out his hand and tore at his neck. He tore open a human face and revealed his original appearance. Yen Xiaoxi. The leader of the black armored people screamed at this time, "It's really you, when did you find out?" Section Chief Yen of the Kelowna administration, who had taken off his disguise, said expressionlessly, "I didn't find out, you just exposed yourself or, you did more actions." At the same time, something as small as a button shot out from Mr. Gareth's fingers and directly hit the leader of the black armored people. It didn't have much power, and the small button-like thing instantly fell to the ground. Mr. Gareth said indifferently, "Do I look really bad to the extent that I didn't even notice that I was bugged? When you sent me and my 2 subordinates to the reception room and locked them up, you took the opportunity to put something on me." I quickly confessed to Section Chief Yen of the Administrative Bureau. "Impossible, you didn't have any contact after that, how could you? Didn't I tell you?" Mr. Gareth smiled and shrugged. When your Section Chief Yen was still a Secret Service agent in charge of collecting foreign intelligence, he was stationed in the city under my jurisdiction. More or less, we still have a little bit of personal friendship. Under the black helmet, the expression of the leader of the black armored people couldn't be seen, but it seemed to be unimaginable. Mr. Gareth chuckled and said, "At first, I was just curious, so I casually made up some reasons. I didn't expect that there would actually be people who would believe such a reason, and so quickly? Now that I think about it, the reason we were able to kidnap Farlier so smoothly was probably because you helped us in the dark, right? The power hidden in Farrell's body is fake?" The leader of the black armored people gritted his teeth and said, "No, it's real." Mr. Gareth said indifferently, "In Mr. Farrell's body, there was indeed the highest and only power of our knight organization that could fight against the entire Eurasian continent and even the world, a power that belonged only to knights." "What is it?" "A knight's creed and belief," Mr. Gareth said slowly. "All of a knight's power comes from a knight's belief. This is the source of our knight's power." "Damn it, you actually tricked me." The leader of the black armored people gritted his teeth. But at this moment the young man, 2 Kai, suddenly frowned. Farrell, who was still shackled, raised his gaze. Yen Xiaoxi's expression also changed slightly. A sword light flashed and the leader of the black armored people was instantly split into 2. His corpse fell to the ground on both sides. At this moment, on top of the small building, a young man with a cold expression was looking down at everyone, The young man had sword-like eyebrows and bright eyes. He was handsome beyond compare, as if he was looking down on the world. "Looks like this is the real deal, junior brother." The young Tu-Kai narrowed his eyes. The black iron spear in his hand seemed to be itching to try and actually started to slowly rotate. "Yes, I'm afraid this is the real deal." Yen Xiaoxi took a deep breath and said solemnly, "This is another powerful aura that I felt at the scene of Boss Fu's death, and this person does indeed have the qualifications to possess such a powerful aura." "Junior brother, you know this guy?" The young Tu-Kai frowned. "Of course I do," Yen Xiaoxi said in a low voice. "How could I not know? This is the most outstanding genius of the Gongsun family in the Xianyuan Palace in the past 1,000 years. Gongsun Xiu. Chapter 1939. From the Gongsun clan of the Xianyuan Palace? Tu-Kai's calm expression faded as he pondered. Yen Xiaoxi cupped her fists and said loudly, "Gongsun Xiu, I hope you can give the Kelowna administration a reasonable explanation. Is this your personal action, or is there something else behind it?" The young man upstairs, Gongsun Xiu said calmly, "It's just that my subordinates were greedy and acted on their own without any evidence. The result is clear. Since they were set up, they deserved to die." "What a ruthless person!" the young man Tu-Kai sneered. "He killed his subordinates without hesitation. Very straightforward. They were my subordinates, not mine," Gongsun Xiu said calmly. "But no matter what, I've cleaned up the place." "Did you kill Fu Mingxian?" Yen Xiaoxi stepped forward. "There's an aura left at the place where they died. It's the same aura as yours." Gongsun Xiu glanced at Yen Xiaoxi casually and said, "We'll meet again." He turned and left without saying anything else. Yen Xiaoxi's expression darkened. She bent her legs and leaped up. Even the Gongsun clan of the Xianyuan Palace needs to give the administration an explanation. Section Chief Yen slapped his palm toward Gongsun Xiu's back. The sound of wind and thunder rumbled within a radius of 100 feet. The shadows of 10 tigers and 10 lions condensed behind the section chief of the administrative bureau. Gongsun Xiu pointed his finger. He broke Yen Xiaoxi's 10 tigers and 10 lions with one finger. Yen Xiaoxi immediately spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying backward. Seeing this, the young man, Tu-Kai, immediately rushed forward and caught Yen Xiaoxi. At the same time, he also stabbed the awakening god's spear at Gongsun Xiu. Gongsun Xiu formed a sword seal and waved it in the air. The awakening god's spear was slashed to one side. After landing, Tu-Kai frowned and waved his hand. The awakening god's spear that was slashed in the air turned around and fell into his hand. Awakening god's spear, Tu-Kai Yen Xiaoxi. The disciple of the fire cloud evil god is only SOSO. Gongsun Xiu retracted his hand. Still, it's quite rare for a secular cultivator outside of the Xianyuan Palace to be able to cultivate to this level. Like I said, today's matter ends here, and we'll meet again. A sullen expression formed on Tu-Kai's face while Yen Xiaoxi turned as pale as a sheet. However, at this moment, a crazy and ruthless aura that made one's heart palpitate soared into the sky behind them like a tsunami. "After being out for so long, I've finally met someone who's passable." This was clearly Farrell's voice. His voice was not loud, but it was clear. Yen Xiaoxi subconsciously looked over. Under Farrell's crazy and violent aura, Mr. Gareth even had to take 3 steps back. At this moment, Farrell slowly walked forward. As he lifted his leg, the special shackles under his feet instantly broke. With a tug of his hands, the shackles in his hands also shattered. The moment the shackles on his body were removed, the evilest knight in history disappeared from everyone's sight. Almost in the next moment, the 2-story building in front of them shattered, and Gongsun Xiu's figure soared into the sky. However, before Gongsun Xiu reached the top, a black shadow appeared behind him. Farrell was already behind Gongsun Xiu, like a wild wolf that had caught its prey. Bang! The evilest knight directly punched out. Gong Sun Shiyu seemed to be unable to react in time, and his body was instantly smashed to the ground by the fist. However, Farrell, who had already made his move, was like a merciless war machine. He did not stop because of this, but instead continued to pursue. The moment Gong Sun Shiyu's body landed heavily on the ground, creating a deep pit, Farrell had already landed. He grabbed Gong Sun Shiyu's right leg with one hand, lifted him up, and slammed him left and right repeatedly. Bang, 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 bang! The scene was horrifying. Little junior brother, where did you pick up such a ferocious fellow? The young man, Tu Kai, opened his mouth. I would rather be caught by master as a punching bag than fight with this guy. Yen Xiaoxi did not say a word. This was the evilest knight who had almost destroyed the entire knight organization? Just as everyone was frightened by Farrell's strength, Gong Sun Shiyu, who had been beaten up all this time, suddenly reached out and pressed the ground. His body suddenly spun, and he forcibly broke free from Farrell's grasp. He kicked Farrell's chest, and the kick moved Farrell more than 10 meters away. Gong Sun Shiyu flipped over and landed on the ground. Except for his damaged clothes, he was unscathed. He swept the dirt off his sleeves and said, You're Farrell, the mad knight who was imprisoned for 100 years? You don't seem to be much. You can't even break my Xianyuan golden body. I'm afraid history's evaluation of you is too high. Interesting, interesting. Farrell was not angry. Instead, he laughed. I like warriors like you. Arrogant and supercilious. The more you are like this, the more potential you have. But it's not enough. Gong Sun Shiyu shook his head and formed a sword spell again. A 3-foot-long sword light instantly extended from his fingers. With a trace of the Yellow Emperor's bloodline and the supreme martial arts of the Xianyuan Palace, this rare genius of the Gongsun family could even use a trace of the sword energy of the Xianyuan Sword of the 9 Provinces divine weapon. He didn't really need to use a trace of the sword energy of the Xianyuan Sword of the 9 Provinces divine weapon. Mr. Farrell, catch. At this moment, Mr. Gareth summoned the weapon of his knight armor. An azure light immediately surrendered to Farrell. It was an ice blue knight's longsword. However, Farrell waved his hand and swept the ice blue knight's sword to the side. Mr. Gareth instantly felt bad. Why is he so disgusted with it? At this moment, the sword energy in Gong Sun Shiyu's fingers had already been released. At the same time, Farrell had already used the most direct and simple method, a straight punch. A huge airwave spread out like a shock wave. In just one breath, everything within a radius of 100 meters had been flattened. Yen Xiaoxi and the others who had retreated long ago watched the final result of this fight nervously. When the light, sound, and airwave dissipated, Gong Sun Shiyu stood proudly. Not far away, Farrell was still in his punching posture. Gong Sun Shiyu slowly exhaled. Hundreds of wounds appeared on Farrell's body in an instant. Blood splashed out and dyed him red. You can still stand. Gong Sun Shiyu chuckled. I heard that the 12 knights have their own exclusive knight armor. Only when a knight wears the knight armor can he unleash his true strength. You can do this without wearing it. He was suddenly interrupted. Is this all you've got? Farrell, who was covered in blood, slowly raised his head. If this is all you've got, I have to take back what I just said. You're not a qualified warrior. Gong Sun Shiyu's gaze hardened as he coldly snorted. Farrell suddenly took a deep breath and then coughed as he coughed. He even spat out a few mouthfuls of thick black blood. Almost there. Farrell muttered. He casually wiped the black blood at the corner of his mouth and said, If I don't show my true strength. Before he could finish his sentence, Farrell disappeared from everyone's sight once more. This time, he also disappeared from Gong Sun Shiyu's sight. The scene from the beginning was repeating itself once again. Gong Sun Shiyu's body was directly thrown into the sky and then smashed into the ground at lightning speed. No one still couldn't catch a glimpse of Farrell's figure. It was as if Gong Sun Shiyu was alone and his body was constantly being ravaged. Smashed, smashed. The current Gong Sun Shiyu could no longer maintain his composure. His body even had a concave shape, the shape of a fist smashing into it. What's going on? Didn't this guy just spit out blood? How come he became fiercer after spitting out blood? The young man, Tu Kai, widened his eyes in disbelief. Yen Xiaoxi subconsciously looked at Mr. Gareth. Gareth laughed bitterly. Section Chief Yen, even if you look at me like this, I still. However, according to my understanding, in order to allow Mr. Farrell to stay in prison peacefully, the Knights hired a total of hundreds of secret pharmacists to poison Mr. Farrell's body together, reducing his strength to less than 1%. The black blood he spat out is probably the poison in his body, right? What did you say? Tu Kai opened his mouth. This guy has been poisoned all this time? Bang! Boom! The ground was suddenly plowed dozens of meters by a figure, Gong Sun Shiyu's body. At this moment, the extremely embarrassed Gong Sun Shiyu suddenly waved his arm. He seemed to have blocked something. They could finally see Farrell's figure. They saw Farrell take 2 steps back from Gong Sun Shiyu, sizing him up and saying, "You can already keep up. You still have potential to be developed." Gong Sun Shiyu slowly stood up after spitting out a mouthful of saliva mixed with blood. His eyes turned golden and his face was ashen. He pressed down with his palm, and his fingers bent into the shape of a claw. "Playtime is over." Gong Sun Shiyu's voice was cold. "This is what you want, death." The ground was shaking, as if something was about to break out of the ground. Under Gong Sun Shiyu's palm, strands of golden light entangled and gradually condensed into a golden longsword. Farrell's eyes suddenly brightened. "Come on. Let me see. This is good, very good." He coughed again, this time coughing out more black pus and blood, and he gradually became fanatical. The area affected by the earthquake was getting bigger and bigger. Especially at the center of the earthquake, their gazes were constantly moving up and down. Looking at the current Gong Sun Shiyu, Tu Kai and Yen Xiaoxi felt a sense of reverence that seemed to come from ancient times. The 2 outstanding elites of the current generation of the Divine Prefecture actually had a vague impulse to worship him. Mr. Gareth didn't think so. He didn't feel it that deeply, but he knew that the power that was about to appear was probably very terrifying, but he still didn't think so, because Gong Sun Shiyu's spell was shaking for too long. If he was Farrell, he would have interrupted his opponent and continued to beat him up quickly. But he couldn't help it. Farrell was stubborn and obviously wanted to experience his opponent's strongest power. Wind seal, water seal, fire seal, earth seal. 4 symbols: dragon and phoenix. However, just as the 2 sides were about to seriously attack, an untimely voice suddenly sounded on the battlefield. At the same time, 4 different kinds of huge power appeared at the same time. The dragon formed by the wind, the giant tortoise formed by the water, the big scarlet bird formed by the flames, and the fierce tiger formed by the rocks. 4 huge beasts charged at them at the same time from all directions. "Be careful!" Tu Kai shouted. The 4 huge beasts that were charging at them exploded at the same time. Immediately, a huge turbulent flow of energy rushed into the sky. The collision of water, fire, and earth was the heaviest, and was dispersed by the wind. A turbid mist mixed with a blazing aura instantly enveloped the area within 100 meters. Seeing this, Yen Xiaoxi directly took out a talisman made from a card from a box at her waist. It attracted a fierce wind and blew away the turbid air. Only a huge pit was left on the scene, and Farrell was standing in this huge pit. His body was scarlet red, and even wisps of steam were rising, but he didn't seem to be affected. However, Gong Sun Shiyu was nowhere to be seen. Someone intervened to stop their battle and took Gong Sun Shiyu away? Yen Xiaoxi saw through the clues at a glance. However, at this moment, Farrell's body suddenly shot out of the huge pit and shot in another direction, disappearing from everyone's sight in the blink of an eye. At this moment, Farrell had spat out the black blood in his body twice in a row, and his strength had increased tremendously. No one knew how much he had recovered. Mr. Gareth grabbed his hair with both hands in frustration. Yen? This was your plan. Mr. Farrell ran away, and if anything happens to him here, the Night Division won't be responsible. Section Chief Yen was about to speak when a beam of golden light shot down from the sky. The golden light flashed, and Kelowna Shinryu's figure appeared in front of Yen Xiaoxi. At this moment, Kelowna Shinryu placed one hand on her waist and looked sideways at Yen Xiaoxi. I just stepped out, and I already sense the movements of Jojo Xianyuan. What have you guys done for me this time? Long Shirua's figure flickered in and out of existence, as if it wasn't a physical body. Yen Xiaoxi couldn't help but be startled. Lord Long, what are you, clone? Kelowna Shinryu snorted coldly. Don't you know anything? Who told you that I don't know how to use Taoist spells? My real body is somewhere else. Don't interrupt. What happened here? Yen Xiaoxi laughed bitterly at Kelowna Shinryu's rebuke. He looked around and saw half of a corpse dug out from the ground. It was the leader of the black armored men who had been dismembered by Gongsun Xiu. I haven't figured it out yet. Yen Xiaoxi sighed and said, but this time, it has something to do with Gongsun Xiu from Xianyuan Palace. He was the one who appeared just now. Gongsun Xiu? Kelowna Shinryu frowned and said, are you sure it's Gongsun Xiu? This guy died in the spiritual energy fissure on Mount Tai. What did you say? Yen Xiaoxi couldn't help but open her mouth. No. Long Shirua's clone muttered. This is indeed the movement of Jojo Xianyua. Apart from Su Zijuan and I, only Gongsun Xiu can use a wisp of sword energy. What exactly happened? Junior brother, you should take a look at this. At this moment the young man, Tu Kai, suddenly shouted. Tu Kai threw half of the black armored men's corpse forward. The black armored men's helmet had cracked, revealing his true appearance. It was half a ferocious tiger's head. This is... Yen Xiaoxi frowned. Long Shirua frowned and said, this is the aura of the white tiger race. He's called Imperial Power. Yen Xiaoxi gritted her teeth and said, he's currently the fourth person to serve in the agency for 10 years. He's a senior agent and one of the team leaders. I'm afraid this batch of black armored men are all members of his team. Seems like the agency isn't made of iron. Kelowna Shinryu seemed to be deep in thought. Her figure gradually disappeared at this moment. Yen Xiaoxi, I'm in a hurry. I'll find time to go to Xianyuan Palace and figure out what happened to Gongsun Xiu. Don't create any more trouble for me. Lord Long, is there anything urgent? Logically speaking, this wasn't a small matter. However, Kelowna Shinryu obviously wanted to put it aside for the time being. This made Yen Xiaoxi wonder if there was something else that was important to Kelowna Shinryu. However, Long Shirua didn't respond. Her figure had already disappeared with the wind. Let's go back first. Yen Xiaoxi sighed and said. 2 silhouettes flew through the forest at high speed. They finally stopped at a small riverbank. Gongsun Xiu and a cold-looking youth with a broken palm. Why did you stop me from killing him? Gongsun Xiu's eyes were filled with killing intent. You should know that no one can resist the sword energy of Jojo Xianyuan. No one. The youth with a broken palm. Gongsun Shirshue said calmly. Let's not talk about Shinryu or the princess. With your strength, you can't even deal with Huiyun. You bastard. Gongsun Xiu grabbed Gongsun Shirshue's collar. I'm the master. That's why I have the obligation to ensure your safety. Gongsun Shirshue said calmly. According to the club's assessment of Farrell, in his peak state, Farrell is theoretically on the same level as Huiyun. He's above the divine general level. You really think I'm not as good as him? Gongsun Xiu's eyes were cold. You've made too much of a ruckus. Gongsun Shirshue said calmly. Don't forget the purpose of this trip. Tomorrow is the start of the summit meeting. However, the leaders of the 4 spiritual clans still haven't agreed to what we want to do. If the plan fails, it will seriously hinder your promotion in the club. 26 seats. I'll pull them down one by one sooner or later. Gongsun Shiyu sneered. I'll keep Farrell's head for now. He snorted and left with a wave of his sleeve. On the riverbank, Gongsun Jishui watched as Gongsun Shiyu left. Finally, he took out a communication device and said, "It's okay, everything is still under control. But this time, the test subject is like you when you were 10 years old and arrogant. Do as you see fit." Really? My appearance when I was young. It's good to be able to meet my stupid past self. Normal people don't have this kind of opportunity. He used the sword energy of Jiuzhou Xinyuan. Although he didn't really release it, it must have alarmed Shinryu. It doesn't matter, it's good to let her be suspicious. It's best if she personally goes to Xianyuan Palace. Maybe it'll be more convenient for us. Do as you see fit. It doesn't matter if it fails or not, as long as it's done. I know. On the riverbank, Farrell stood in the shallow water. His gaze swept from upstream to downstream as he pondered. He had tracked them all the way here, but the two auras had disappeared without a trace. The Mad Knight slowly exhaled, and then directly used the river water under his feet to wash off the blood and dirt on his body. The wounds caused by Gongsun Shiyu's sword energy had already healed. At this moment, Farrell's hands suddenly stopped and he turned around with a thoughtful look on his face. At the edge of the riverbank, a figure slowly walked over. It was a gray-haired young man. The young man held a trekking staff in his hand, and carried a large wooden box as tall as a person on his back, as he slowly walked over. A foreigner? The young man carrying the box muttered as he walked closer to Farrell. The Mad Knight's eyes narrowed. His gaze seemed to materialize, and a ruthless aura turned into an invisible beast. The beast directly stepped on the river and opened its terrifying mouth, directly biting towards the youth carrying the big wooden box. At this time, the young man waved the mountaineering stick in his hand calmly. In an instant, the invisible beast formed by the violent aura disappeared instantly. The river gurgled and the scenery was pleasant. The gray-haired young man smiled and said, "Relax, I don't mean any harm. I'm just passing by and wanted to get some water to quench my thirst. I'm Momo." "Oh, right, nice to meet you." Chapter 1940. Farrell was sizing him up, the young man with gray hair and a big wooden box on his back. He shouldn't be old. The gray hair seemed to be a message to Farrell, giving him a sense of vicissitudes. The Mad Knight was sober most of the time. Only at certain times did he know he needed to be crazy. What kind of experience could make a person experience things that shouldn't be experienced at such a young age? Momo picked up some dry twigs and made a simple fire on the riverbank. He then scooped some river water and put it on a survival kettle. His shoes were old, probably because he had walked for a long time. "Eat some." Momo opened his backpack and took out 2 zongzi. A farmer uncle gave them to me. "They taste good." "Zongzi, you know, delicious." "Eat. Good. Good." He opened the leaves on the zongzi and made a gesture of delicious. Then he put the unwrapped zongzi in front of Farrell and broke some twigs to use as chopsticks, eating them in small bites. Farrell just glanced at it and didn't take any action. The loose foreign language obviously wouldn't be of much use. The young celestial master of Mount Longhu couldn't help but reveal an awkward expression. Momo didn't seem to have an effective way to communicate with this foreign uncle, but as a master of Dragon Tiger Mountain, he soon showed his unique skill. Another bag, a cloth bag, was opened slowly. Farrell couldn't help but furrow his brows. He could sense that there were quite a few spirits inside the bag. Momo opened the bag and something rushed out. Momo quickly drew something in front of him with his finger and then pointed forward. He quickly tied up the bag and smiled at Farrell. "All right, you should be able to speak now." Although he wasn't very good at it, Farrell could understand the language, except for the accent. Farrell looked at this young man called Momo in surprise, asking curiously, "How did you do it?" "How did I do it?" Momo thought for a while. "It's a bit complicated. Generally speaking, it's a professional skill. I'm a ghost catcher, oh, an exorcist. I have some souls on hand. After they possess a body, they'll be able to use some of their abilities from when they were alive. For example, language or something like that. I happen to have a foreigner's soul in my hands. Exorcist? Farrell muttered to himself. Momo smiled casually. You can treat me as a conman, a liar, a magician, and so on. Things like ghosts existed if one believed in them, but if one didn't, they didn't. People with ulterior motives see everything as the underworld. Are you traveling? Farrell suddenly asked. This was a very calm young man. For a moment, Farrell didn't have the desire to make a move. This mysterious young exorcist did not have the slightest arrogance to provoke a fight. Sitting here, he was like one of the many rocks in the small river bank, completely blending into this place. If it wasn't for the fact that there was someone like him who didn't fit the style of the painting. He was sitting alone with a wooden box beside the firewood. It was more like a painting called The Traveler. I'm looking for things and people. Momo chewed the food in his mouth slowly, gazing at nightfall with empty eyes. What about you? Are you also looking for things? How do you know I'm looking for things? Farrell tilted his head. It's just a polite question. Momo smiled. Isn't it always like this? Opening remarks, topic creation, and so on, just asking casually. I'm indeed looking for someone. Farrell suddenly said. I see. Momo nodded and didn't want to ask further. He glanced at the dumplings that Farrell didn't eat, saying, Eat it. If you don't eat the ants, they will crawl over. There are a lot of insects here. Aren't you going to ask me who I'm looking for? Farrell continued asking. It's not good to ask. Momo shook his head. This is your privacy. I'm not interested in other people's privacy. Are you sure you don't want to eat? He confirmed that even if it wasn't a loose foreign language, they couldn't communicate. The British Mad Knight returned to his original intention, intending to communicate with Momo in his own way. He stretched out his palm towards the firewood. Momo looked at his action strangely. Farrell suddenly clenched his fist. In a split second, countless roaring evil spirits gushed out from the surroundings. The chilly wind blew. In Momo's eyes, Farrell's body was like a black quagmire that swallowed countless evil spirits. A terrifying monster was about to climb out of this muddy quagmire. The young heavenly master from Dragon Tiger Mountain opened his mouth slightly. He shuddered all of a sudden and immediately withdrew the two big zongzi. Then, he formed a seal with one hand. Farlier's beast-like eyes locked onto Momo's body, and his fist followed. However, the young heaven master of Longhu Mountain waved his hand as fast as lightning. A flowing light flashed, directly entering the Mad Knight's forehead. Farrell stopped moving. His fist was still swinging, but he just sat there motionless. The chilly wind was like a terrifying monster that climbed out of the quagmire, gradually disappearing. The swaying firewood returned to normal. Momo took out his zongzi and put one in front of Farrell. He didn't finish the one he was eating. The firewood made crackling sounds occasionally. The twilight faded away and the crescent moon rose. Once again, he turned back into the person in the landscape painting of the traveler, except that there was an additional Farrell sitting quietly and waving his fists. Piak! It was the sound of the firewood burning again. Farrell slowly opened his eyes and heaved a sigh. He put down his fist and looked at Momo with a frown. Why didn't you attack me when I was absent-minded? We have no enmity between us. Why should I attack you? Momo had finished his zongzi. He was lying beside the wooden box with his legs crossed, looking at the moon in the sky leisurely. Besides, I'm afraid that I'll be beaten by you if I make a sudden move. It's dangerous to disturb a tiger's sleep. What was that just now? Farrell thought for a while. Momo said casually, mind-clearing incantation, a Taoist art that can make people have a good sleep, something like magic. I often use it on myself when I can't sleep. It's more effective than sleeping pills. But it's not as good as drinking wine, which can make people drunk. Momo took out a small flagon, unscrewing the cap and drinking a mouthful before throwing it to Farrell. I did have a good sleep. Farrell took the flagon but didn't drink it. He just said indifferently, 100 years. Momo gave a start, looking at Farrell with astonishment. Then he smiled. Uncle, you've taken good care of yourself. You don't have dark circles under your eyes even though you haven't slept for 100 years. Let's postpone this battle, Farrell suddenly said. Momo chuckled bitterly and waved his hand casually in the night. A moment later, a golden talisman appeared out of thin air and slowly floated to Farrell's front. It can be used 3 times, Momo said indifferently. Just stick it on your head when you can't sleep. Farrell took it, remaining silent for a while before asking indifferently, Why did you help me? Fortune tellers like us depend on fate. Momo smiled. It's fate to meet you. Just consider it as a good karma. Thanks. His voice lingered in the air. When Momo looked back, Farrell had disappeared. As for when he left, Momo didn't know. What a dangerous uncle. F***ck my wine. Besides the uncle, his flagon was also gone. What a loss. Momo yelled bitterly, then he sighed, shaking his head. Looking at the moon, Momo got up and opened the big wooden box. There was a young man with a jade-like face who seemed to be asleep. Momo fetched some water from the river, wet a towel and started to wipe the young man's face, saying softly, Come out and bask in the moonlight, genre. The night was boundless. The car was driven by Tu Kai himself. At this moment, besides Yen Xiaoxi, Mr. Gareth and his subordinates, there was only the corpse of the White Tiger tribe. Mister, are you also a member of the administration? Mr. Gareth looked at the young man and asked. He's my senior, Tu Kai. Yen Xiaoxi said indifferently. But he doesn't belong to the administration of Kelowna. My senior is a freelancer. But he's very suitable for this action. Mr. Gareth chuckled. Your senior can hide from many people's eyes. Yen Xiaoxi didn't say anything, but her face didn't look good. Imperial Power was one of the leaders of the action group in the administration, but he acted privately under the umbrella of the administration. Yen Xiaoxi couldn't help but ask about the current situation in the administration. The reason why the administration proposed to recruit a group of monsters every 10 years was to be inclusive. Over these years, many monsters who were willing to be loyal were recruited, and the results were extraordinary. However, the disadvantages were also revealed. What made Yen Xiaoxi feel like she was sitting on pins and needles was the appearance of Gong Sunshu. Could it be that this was the first time the Xianyuan Palace had infiltrated the administration of Kelowna? She couldn't figure it out, and there was a fog in front of her. How many outsiders were there in the administration apart from Imperial Power of the White Tiger tribe? What do you plan to do? Mr. Gareth suddenly asked. Go back now and eliminate them? Yen Xiaoxi thought for a while and said, No, I don't plan to go back yet. You don't want to go back? Yen Xiaoxi nodded and said, This time, I came out with you in disguise. At the same time, there's someone else who's using my identity to command the city in my place. This is perfect. I can remove myself from the situation and observe everything that's happening. You plan to? Mr. Gareth seemed to have thought of something. Yen Xiaoxi said indifferently, From now on, I'm your night servant, Mr. Gareth. So reckless. Mr. Gareth couldn't help but laugh bitterly. Don't forget that Gong Sun Xiu knows you're in disguise. It's okay. Yen Xiaoxi said indifferently. True and false, it can confuse the enemy. Whether I've changed back or not, let them guess. At this time, the young man driving in front, Tu Kai, turned around and smiled. He blinked and said, Me too, thank you for your advice. You're welcome. Seems like a lot happened today? When Firecloud Evil God returned to the administration's command center, the building was cleaning up the scene after the explosion. Sir Firecloud, you're finally back. A few agents who stayed at the scene to direct the cleanup work came forward. The backbone, this was the real backbone of the administration. What happened here? Firecloud Evil God frowned and asked. He explained the cause and effect. The diplomatic group surrounding the knight's mechanism? Fire Cloud Evil God immediately shook his head. Let that idiot Yen Xiaoxi retreat immediately. What is this called? This is simply outrageous. Everyone kept quiet out of fear. They had never seen Consultant Fire Cloud so angry. Bring Yen Xiaoxi back immediately. Fire Cloud Evil God snorted at this time. After bringing her back, lock her up and reflect on her actions. Isn't this a bit too heavy? Besides, the summit meeting is going to start in a dozen hours at this time. I'm the one in charge of this meeting. Fire Cloud Evil God said indifferently, from now on, I'll take care of everything. Send an apology letter to the Knight's diplomatic group, and summon all the team leaders and above to the conference room. I want to have a meeting. Overtime pay, no overtime pay. Got it. As expected of Section Chief Yan's master, when it came to not giving overtime pay, they were indeed of the same origin. Fengdu, once it was called Yudu, for tourists, this place was filled with legends of gods and ghosts from the land of Kelowna for thousands of years. The local government also used the legends as a resource to develop various scenic spots in Fengdu. But if tourists really wanted to experience the real ghost city, it was rumored that they still had to wait until night time, when they were unlucky. Of course, this was just a saying from the tour guides. Even at night, Fengdu was still brightly lit, except for the various palaces that were used as tourist attractions. The darkness of the night, the mountains, and the thin mist had already hidden half of these ancient buildings, and then the reverence in people's hearts had also hidden the other half, making this place unusually peaceful. The moon rose, and a stream quietly landed on the stairs of the Ghost Nation's divine palace, then slowly climbed up. Kelowna's Shinryu had just stepped through the gate of the Ghost Nation's divine palace, and in a split second, the originally dark mountains suddenly became brightly lit. With this as the beginning, all the red and green lights climbed up the mountains, and on the ancient streets, all kinds of wandering souls shuttled back and forth. They came from different dynasties and histories, but now they were incomparably harmonious in this mysterious ghost city. Shinryu's power repelled all evil. Walking in the ghost city, if she didn't restrain this power, she was afraid that all the ghosts along the way would be directly scattered, vanishing into thin air. It was better to be a little more careful. Long Shirua frowned, and directly walked toward the ghost city's City Lord Hall, because she used a concealment technique. The ghosts shuttling back and forth only thought that she was a new ghost in the ghost city, and didn't pay too much attention to her. Yang Chun noodles. Delicious Yang Chun noodles. Sugar-coated haws, sugar figurines, sugar paintings. Painting. Look carefully, this is the real breaking a big stone on the chest. What's on the chest is the mountains and rivers, the broken life. It was like returning to ancient times. But there were also guys wearing fashionable clothes, and there were also shops with shining neon lights. This is Roland, our shop's newly acquired handsome man in 3,000 years. Miss, do you want to come in and play? We have all kinds of boys here. When did you guys open a brothel? Kelowna's Shinryu stopped in front of a particularly eye-catching shop. In front of the shop's window, there were two male models wearing tight black briefs, and their muscles were clearly defined. Miss, is this your first time here? If you come in, I'll break your bones. Kelowna's Shinryu looked at the guy in front of him, who was wearing a suit embroidered with money and rubbing his hands, and snorted with disdain. You don't like these? We have a few faceless ghosts here, and they can provide special services. They can tailor the style to suit you, as long as you want, no matter what type, they can satisfy you, and they can definitely let you do whatever you want. Custom style. Kelowna's Shinryu couldn't help but swallow his saliva, and a certain person's face suddenly flashed in his mind. He subconsciously took a step forward. Just as he took a step forward, Kelowna's Shinryu instantly turned around and left. Bah! How could the great Kelowna's Shinryu visit a brothel? Bah damn pauper! Why are you here if you don't have money? The man with the money embroidered on his suit cursed. Kelowna's Shinryu's power was about to leak out, but Long Shirua's eyes couldn't move away, and she stood there dumbfounded. What kind of shop is this? Can it really be custom-made? At this time, the true dragon of godly land was staring at a figure in front of the cabinet of the duck shop. It was the appearance of the person who flashed through her mind. She opened her mouth, and felt that this was very scary. She subconsciously walked in front of the figure, and reached out to pinch his cheeks, and said in disbelief, "How did you do it? You can actually read my mind?" "Miss Long, I didn't read your mind." "Heh. You're quite good at acting. You even imitated the expression and tones so well." The true dragon of China snorted coldly, and then his expression changed dramatically. She quickly realized something. Except for herself, the male model and the manager in front of the shop didn't seem to have seen what happened. It's really you? Good evening, Miss Long." Kelowna's Shinryu's took a deep breath, and then her scalp went numb. Don't misunderstand, I didn't go to the brothel." Miss Long didn't go in, she was just loitering in front of the door. "It's fine." Kelowna's Shinryu's eyes darkened. "It's over. I've been a virgin for more than 2,000 years. End of chapter. Chapter 1941. The bustling streets of the ghost city were different from the bustling streets of the mortal world. They walked slowly among the citizens of the ghost city. They were separated by a third person's distance, side by side. After leaving the store of the handsome man that appeared once in 3,000 years, Kelowna's Shinryu didn't say a word. She looked like she had a lot on her mind. She wanted to speak a few times, but she realized that it would be good enough if she didn't say anything. Even though the two of them were separated by some distance, they could still stroll casually without being disturbed. In the bustling streets there were waning lights, the moon was dim, and the stars were bright. A little girl carrying a basket of flowers walked in front of Boss Luo and Long Shirua, and gave them a bouquet of light yellow flowers. There was a small firefly on the petals. It was very beautiful. She gave such flowers to every citizen of the Ghost Kingdom who wandered on the street. The yellow flower in Long Shirua's hand spun slowly, and the firefly on the petals flew away in fright. "Why did you suddenly think of coming to this place?" Kelowna's Shinryu finally took the initiative to break the silence of the ghost city's bustling night market. He frowned. "Could it be that you, the big boss, also have your eyes on the lonely ghosts in the ghost city?" "Lonely ghosts?" Boss Luo blinked. Kelowna's Shinryu said indifferently, "They can't reincarnate. Most of them will be destroyed by the yang energy after leaving the ghost city. They don't have any so-called relatives in this world. They can only hide in this place where they can't see the light of day. If they aren't lonely ghosts, what are they?" Boss Luo smiled. His face was calm and didn't refute. Long Shirua rolled her eyes in annoyance. Last time, she fainted because of malnutrition, and her brain was in a mess. Now, she was no longer in the forbidden area. Kelowna's earth energy was constantly replenishing her. She was always in her best condition. It was impossible for her to be unable to walk when she saw a man. "Do you know what I hate the most about you?" Kelowna's Shinryu stopped rolling his eyes and said seriously. "What is it?" Boss Luo asked curiously. Long Shirua said sternly, "You don't have any vitality at all. You're just like an old man." Boss Luo smiled and said that he was actually more cheerful than before. Luochio walked forward and quickly merged with the souls of the ghost city. Long Shirua had no choice but to follow. She was afraid that she would lose him. This was the only person in the entire Kelowna or even the entire world. She was not confident that she could catch up to him. "You haven't answered my question," she pressed. "Come to think of it, I've known about Ghost City for quite some time, but I haven't had the chance to see it, so I plan to take a walk before dinner." "Is that really it?" Long Shirua obviously had a "I don't believe you" expression. "What a coincidence, if I don't come, you won't come?" Luochio smiled, then, "Miss Long, just think of it as me following your footsteps to see you." Bang bang, bang bang, Bang, then I'm really flattered? Long Shirwa sneered, her face full of disdain. She was in a good state now. She was not afraid of a 100% constant battery. But why? Her heart was beating very fast. Miss Long, Boss Luo asked curiously, why did you come here from so far away? Oh, it's because. Kelowna's Shinryu changed the topic. Why, don't you know? Shouldn't you know everything? Just like the so-called information channel you opened for me, as the store manager, if you want to get information, isn't it easier? Miss Long, you're joking. Boss Luo smiled. If I want to get information, I have to make a deal with the store itself. You're the store manager, why do you have to? Kelowna's Shinryu's eyes widened, her face full of disbelief. Boss Luo said softly, I'm just the store owner. This owner is not the owner's owner. Long Shirua frowned subconsciously. The store known as that place had always been mysterious. Other than giving up everything and receiving everything in return, it couldn't know anything else about those shop. Other than this rule. It was the same even for Kelowna's Shinryu. This kind of thing. Long Shirua lowered her head, her face hidden, her voice faint. Why did you tell me? Boss Luo thought for a moment. Probably, because I felt that even if I told Miss Long, it wouldn't matter. These things, you'll know sooner or later, and I don't think Miss Long will hurt me. Pung pung, pung pung, pung. Aren't you afraid that the follower behind you will be unhappy? She looked up, her eyes burning as she looked at the guy who was still quiet in the ghost market. Why would she be unhappy? Who knows? Long Shirwa snorted, tilted her head and muttered, You clearly know. Actually, we're very willing to make friends with different people, Boss Luo suddenly said, and we're more willing to stay by the side of people in need as friends. You want me to be friends with that damn woman? Kelowna's Shinryu instantly looked like a cat whose tail was stepped on, and angrily said, No way. Unless it's me. Dead. She couldn't say it out loud. Besides, why did it have to be me who died? Unless it's that damn woman who begs me. Naturally, this sentence made him sound unyielding. I'm afraid that's still a bit difficult. Boss Luo chuckled. You only know how to help that guy. Kelowna's Shinryu muttered again, and then shook her head. I'm too lazy to argue with you here. I have something important to do, don't get in the way. Fuck. Why did I come to Ghost City? It's a call for help from the 100 Tribulations Taoist? Finally, after a few heartbeats, Kelowna's Shinryu finally remembered the purpose of this trip to Ghost City. Is there something urgent? Long Shirua nodded. I received a call from the 100 Tribulations Taoist. It seems like he's asking for help. Every year around the Hungry Ghost Festival, the gates of hell will open wide. This is a rule that has been in place since before the underworld existed. Forget it, let's talk while we walk. The underworld, the 6 paths of reincarnation, the order of all living things in the mortal world. Nobody knew when the gates of hell stopped opening. The 6 paths of reincarnation had been lost, and the lonely souls and wild ghosts in the mortal world could only stay in the mortal world. They lost all guidance from the underworld, they couldn't walk the bridge of helplessness, and couldn't drink Meng Po's soup. Over time, they brought many negative effects to the mortal world. At first, it was Xiao Xingma who discovered this Fengdu ghost city. It was connected to the road to the underworld, but half of the road to the underworld was broken. On the way, Long Shirua explained the origin of Fengdu Ghost City with her usual simple and straightforward words. Xiao Xingma couldn't cross the broken road to the underworld. He begged me for 100 days and nights. I walked over, but I couldn't see a single messenger of the netherworld. The 10 kings of hell weren't there, and half of the 18 levels of hell were empty. There was actually a little ghost sitting on Xidigarba's lotus platform. No one knew what had happened. The road to the underworld was broken, and the 6 paths of reincarnation had disappeared. So, I had no choice but to move half of hell up here. Damn it, I was really tired out that time. This Fengdu Ghost City was built using half of the underworld. In short, I did some work as a porter, and the rest was done by Xiao Xingma, by Jia, and the other ox-noses. With this Fengdu ghost city built by half of hell, the lonely souls and wild ghosts in the mortal world had a place to stay. But the 6 paths of reincarnation disappeared. No matter how big this ghost city was, it was about to explode after so many years. What's worse is that although hell was broken in two, the mechanism of opening the central gates of hell still exists. Every year at this time, the evil ghosts in the other half of hell would struggle to get out. You should have guessed what the other half of hell is. Boss Luo thought for a while and said, the so-called 18 levels of hell? Kelowna's Shinryu nodded, that's right. At that time, I found that half of the 18 levels of hell were empty, but there was still half. The half of hell that I carried back was outside of the 18 levels of hell. For so many years, every year at this time, the guys from the Taoist sect and Xiao Xingma would work together to guard it. It had always been peaceful, so I didn't care much. But this time, there seemed to be an accident? Long Shirua nodded. Boss Lua looked around, thought for a while and said, but this ghost city and ghost city doesn't seem to have changed. This is what I find strange. Long Shirua muttered, when I came here, I saw the ghost city open and felt strange. That's why I didn't go to the city lord's mansion immediately to check it out. It's not like what you see, why would you go to a brothel? Boss Luo didn't deny it and smiled. It's over, I won't be able to live through this for the rest of my life. Kelowna's Shinryu's face darkened, and he kicked open the gate of the Ghost City's City Lord's residence. It's all because of the Ghost City's City Lord's lack of management, all kinds of strange shops were opened. He decided, if the Ghost City's mansion really failed this time, and some ferocious evil spirits rushed out, the first one he met, he would make it completely disappear. The City Lord's mansion is quite quiet. Boss Luo followed him into the gate of the Ghost City's City Lord's mansion. The road in front of the City Lord's mansion was abnormally gloomy and scary. Unlike the bustling Ghost City below, there was no sound at all here. Long Shirua glanced at Boss Luo subconsciously, then frowned, and strode directly into the City Lord's mansion. Shinryu's power repelled all evil spirits. In theory, there was no one who could touch her. Not only here, there was no one in the 18 levels of hell. She shouldn't have to worry about anything, but at this time, she vaguely felt uneasy. The Ghost City's liveliness and the City Lord's mansion's strangeness formed a great contrast. She couldn't even see a ghost servant. Even if Xiao Xingma and Bai Jie left here, there shouldn't be no ghost servant here. It's too strange. Long Shirua's frown deepened, but after stepping into the City Lord's mansion's main hall, her expression instantly changed slightly. There was a fierce battle here. Inside the mansion, there were tear marks everywhere. The huge City Lord's mansion's main hall, at this time, was in tatters, with only a few pillars left to support it. Bloodstains. Real bloodstains. Suddenly, a black shadow flashed in front of Boss Luo and Long Shirua's eyes, and then quickly rushed up to a higher place in the City Lord's mansion, a small building overlooking the entire Ghost City's divine palace. Where do you think you're going? Kelowna's Shinryu instantly shouted coldly. His body turned into a golden stream of light, and instantly caught up with the fleeing figure, and also climbed up the small building in front of him. Landing, Long Shirua's eyes instantly focused. She saw that the figure who led her here, at this time, was standing in front of the small building's grandstand, with his hands behind his back, looking down at the Ghost City's divine palace. Kelowna's Shinryu slightly tilted his head, seeing that Boss Luo had unknowingly appeared by his side. He seemed to be relieved, and said in a deep voice, "Who are you? Why did you deliberately lead me here? What does the disappearance of Xiao Xingma and the others have to do with you?" Kelowna's Shinryu, have you ever regretted building this ghost city back then? The black shadow slowly said at this time. Speak human language. Long Shirua directly sneered. My patience is limited. I'm not a human. The black shadow shook his head and said indifferently. Pretending to be mystifying. Long Shirua coldly snorted, her eyes turned into fragments of gold, and Shinryu's power was like a scorching sun, shining in all directions. She rushed out like lightning, directly reaching out to grab the black shadow. However, she actually grabbed empty air. Kelowna's Shinryu's hand, what she grabbed was actually a black robe. The moment the robe was lifted, she saw a little girl standing in front of her with a flower basket, once again giving her a bouquet of small yellow flowers. Long Shirua, who was stunned by the scene in front of her, was stunned on the spot. Lord Long, my name is Xiao Xiao Xiao, I'm the city lord's adopted daughter. The little girl carrying the flower basket at this time, smiled faintly and said at this time, You, child, what's the matter with you? Long Shirua frowned. Lord Long Jun, have you forgotten? The little girl holding the small yellow flowers at this time said softly at this time, Today is the 1000th new year since the establishment of Ghost City. Therefore, everyone has prepared some gifts for you, Lord Long. Gifts? Kelowna's Shinryu subconsciously looked up and saw this small building. At this time, little fluorescent lights were slowly rising from the Ghost City, like a rising galaxy that filled the sky at this time. At this time, each and every citizen of the Ghost Kingdom was holding yellow flowers, with the fireflies on the flowers, freely flying under the night sky of the Ghost Kingdom's divine palace. The city lord of Ghost City, Xiao Xingma, was impressively among them. In the middle of the galaxy, there was another place filled with dense purple fog. Surrounded by a group of sage-like Taoists, they were none other than the 100 Tribulations Taoist, the leader of the Tao Gate, and the elders of the Tao Gate who came with him. At this time, the little girl Xiao 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 climbed on the railing of the small building at this time, opened her hands and said loudly, Everyone, get ready. 1, 2, 3. In a split second, thousands of voices, rang together in this continuous night sky. Many thanks, Lord Long Jun. Please accept our 3 bows. Many thanks, Lord Long Jun. Please accept our 3 bows. Many thanks, Lord Long Jun. Please accept our 3 bows. In the galaxy formed by the starlight of the fireflies, the city lord of Ghost City, Xiao Xingma, took the lead to bow down. 100 Tribulations Taoist and the others followed closely, with a smile on their faces. The Divine Land's true dragon stood in front of the Ghost Nation's citizens that filled the sky as they danced. The dazzling fluorescent light seemed to drape her with a thin layer of soft gauze. She suddenly took a small half-step back and tilted her head. TSK. They actually did this. She bit her lips. It seems that these lonely souls and wild ghosts have already found their home. Boss Luo came to her side at an unknown time, lightly saying, You knew it already? Long Shirua looked up at him, her eyes were filled with him, the fluorescent lights in the sky, and some cold fog in the night. Tonight, you're the most beautiful. Receiving the worship of the citizens of Kelowna, Shinryu, in Luochio's eyes, was as bright as a star. He handed her a small yellow flower. Chapter 1942. The woman who let go of the drink was unexpectedly free and easy. In the Ghost Kingdom's divine palace, melodious music rang out everywhere, and red lanterns were lit up all over the mountains and plains, celebrating the 1000th birthday of this city of departed souls. In front of the city lord's mansion, in the middle of a huge bonfire, female ghosts wearing all kinds of dresses were like blooming flowers. Suddenly, a colorful ribbon fell from the sky on a high platform. Kelowna's Shinryu stepped on the ribbon and slid all the way down to the high platform, dancing gracefully. The joyful sound continued. The celebration would not stop, it would continue for 3 days and night. The Yang realm did not care about the affairs of the Netherworld, and similarly, the Netherworld did not care about the affairs of the Yang realm. Whether it was the extraordinary society or the secular world outside, this was the Ghost Kingdom's divine palace, a place for a group of ghosts who had no home or relatives to stay. Boss Luo was like the many ghosts of the Ghost Kingdom, wandering in the light and joy, as if looking for something. Finally, he climbed up the small building at the beginning. There was some regret in his eyes, but also some relief. Sure enough, I can't find it. The little yellow flower in his hand slowly rotated between his fingers. Fireflies floated from a distance, surrounding him, and chirping. What are you doing here alone? Kelowna's Shinryu's voice. Boss Luo turned around. At this time, Long Shiruo was wearing a white dress with a bright red tulle hanging on the outside, and was barefoot. This was the dress she changed into when she paid tribute to Zhu Wu, and she had not taken it off. There was no headgear, and there was no discovery, just a head of long hair casually draped over her shoulders. Her bare feet stepped on the spotless wooden floor of the small building, and there was a small wine pot in her hand. It was the kind of wuxia movies, the kind where Lin Qingxia played the role of the sect master of the East, freely and heroically drinking wine in the great river. I don't belong here, just look, Boss Luo said softly. Kelowna's Shinryu turned to look at him. His hair was loose and his face was slightly flushed. Perhaps it was because of the wine in the pot. According to Xiaoxingma, the wine was brewed using a recipe found in Granny Meng's former residence. According to legend, Granny Meng's residence was located in half of the underworld that Kelowna's Shinryu brought back. According to the recipe, it was called departed spirit wine. But City Master Xiao was a guy who liked to pretend to be a cultured person. Just by looking at his name, it should be clear. Therefore, the Ghost City's city lord directly gave the replicated departed soul wine a different name. Sang Luo. I wonder who has fallen in love with Sang Luo this year. A drunkard loses his wine when he is not drunk, leaving others with no choice but to part. This was probably the elegance he wanted. It was really intoxicating. The slightly tipsy Kelowna Shinryu looked especially gorgeous. Under the fluorescent light, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that she looked like a fairy from the Immortal Palace. You seem to be looking for someone. Long Shirua thought for a while and said, You're not looking for me, but for someone else. Here, there's someone you know. Departed spirit? Old friend? Family member? Boss Luo suddenly said, No matter why I'm here, for me, to be able to see Miss Long like this tonight is an unexpected surprise. It makes me feel that this trip is completely worth it. You're saying this again. Kelowna Shinryu turned her head. She found that she was hopelessly in love with such words, even if she knew that it might be poison. Sang Luo fiercely drank a few mouthfuls of wine. Kelowna Shinryu rudely wiped her mouth with her sleeve and said loudly, I don't want to talk about this with you tonight. I'm in a good mood, come drink with me. She directly threw the wine pot over. Boss Luo easily held the flagon in his palm. He lowered his head and looked at it, but didn't move. Kelowna Shinryu instantly became very irritated and said angrily, Don't drink it if you don't like it. Throw it away if you dare. Of course not. Boss Luo slightly smiled and slowly moved the wine pot in his palm to his lips. Kelowna Shinryu slightly gulped, like the eve of a great battle, anxiously looking at the wine pot that was slowly moved to Luochio's lip. Almost there. Almost there. Just a little bit more. Bang. Bang. Almost there. Ah. Master Long, so you're here. At this moment, the 100 Tribulations Taoists' hearty laughter sounded in the small building. Kelowna Shinryu was startled as if he was caught doing something bad. He subconsciously turned around and saw not only the 100 Tribulations Taoist, but also Xiaoxingma and a group of Taoist elders. Master Long, why are you here alone? Xiaoxingma cupped his hands and asked. Alone? Kelowna Shinryu instantly reacted and fiercely turned around. On the stands of the small building, there was no trace of that person, only a few fireflies were floating casually. Just a little bit, just a little bit. Kelowna Shinryu instantly clenched his fist, his whole body slightly trembling. Master Long, what's wrong with you? Xiaoxingma couldn't help but ask hesitantly. He saw that Kelowna Shinryu seemed to be a little strange. At this time, a Taoist elder stroked his beard and said with a smile, I think Lord Dragon Monarch is excited because of our arrangement today. It must be because the arrangement we made today has moved Lord Dragon Monarch too much. It's not bad, not bad. Lord Dragon Monarch racked his brains for Ghost City. We only did some insignificant things. Dragon Monarch doesn't have to be so excited. Yes. Kelowna Shinryu slowly turned around and put on a fake smile. I'm so King touched. Go to hell. Rumble? The people of the Ghost Kingdom, didn't know what happened. However, the small building of the City Lord's mansion suddenly collapsed. Then, thousands of golden lights instantly rushed into the sky, as brilliant as fireworks. In the collapsed building, a half-dead old man kept mumbling, Lord Dragon God is too excited, too excited. The celebration became more lively. The little girl Xiao 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 brought a cup of hangover tea and delivered it to Kelowna Shinryu. At this time, Kelowna Shinryu was impatiently looking out of the window. In the room, Xiao Xingma and the others who had just survived were all silent. Shinryu's secret. Oh, after the grand fireworks, they sat in the Ghost City's City Lord Mansion's meeting room. Xiao Xiao, go out and play. Xiao Xingma told the little girl at this time. She sighed in response and then left, humming a little tune. When did you adopt a daughter? Kelowna Shinryu suddenly asked. I've never heard you mention it. It happened in the last 50 years. Xiao Xiao's mother died early and she also died early. She wandered alone in the Ghost City, and I was moved by compassion. This child is similar to me. The true dragon of the divine land stopped resting his chin on his hand. He picked up the hangover tea and slowly took a sip. When Xiao Xingma didn't speak, his whole face looked particularly gloomy. It was the kind of face that could easily jump out the word villain in one's mind. But in fact, the city lord of this ghost city was very womanly. Not only did he like to pretend to be elegant, but he could also do needlework, farming and herding cows. This guy was actually very suitable for living. Long Shirua shook his head again. Then he thought of something and glared at 100 Tribulations Taoist. But, I really didn't expect that you, the Mount Tai of Taoism, would join hands with Xiao Xingma to trick me. Well done, 100 Tribulations little brat, you've really learned something. 100 Tribulations Taoist was originally immortal-like, but now there was a black circle under his left eye, but he still looked like an immortal. He coughed dryly and said, This matter is over, Lord Dragon King doesn't need to make fun of this old Taoist anymore. This was just a spur of the moment. City Lord Xiao and the others were just dragged along. Kelowna Shinryu sneered, making 100 Tribulations Taoist break out in cold sweat. It shouldn't be like this? She was clearly very happy during the celebration, having fun with the people of the Ghost Nation. Why did her mood change so abruptly and suddenly become irritable? Surprise? I'm afraid it's not a shock. Long Shirua snorted and said, I really thought something happened to you. You failed to guard the Ghost Gate and came all the way here. Don't you know that tomorrow morning is the first day of the World Superhuman Summit? 100 Tribulations Taoist and Xiao Xingma looked at each other. 100 Tribulations Taoist said seriously, In fact, before Dragon King arrived, we were indeed attacked. The traces of fighting and destruction in the main hall of the City Lord Mansion were not made up by us. They are real. Really? Long Shirua frowned subconsciously. What happened? Xiao Xingma said slowly, For this year's Ghost Gate Guard, Mr. 100 Tribulations and the others came earlier than usual. Perhaps it was because they wanted to rush to the Superhuman Summit tomorrow, so they wanted to come earlier to prepare. However, just as we finished preparing and were about to suppress the Ghost Gate, a group of people suddenly appeared and ambushed us. They almost made us fail this time. To be honest, the situation was very dangerous at that time, and Mr. 100 Tribulations was even slightly injured. Who were they? Kelowna Shinryu asked directly. Their identities are unknown. 100 Tribulations Taoist shook his head, but one thing is certain, they all wore metal helmets and were like death warriors. They were not afraid of death, and once they failed, they would instantly detonate themselves, leaving nothing behind. The only thing that is certain is that these ambushers were all warriors, and they were not weak. Then, 100 Tribulations Taoist waved his hand, and a white fog spread out on the table. After the white fog dispersed, a metal mask with a different shape appeared on the table. This was left behind by the ambushers after they exploded. What do you think, Master Dragon King? Warriors? Kelowna Shinryu pondered. Warriors who could even hurt 100 Tribulations Kid. She looked at the tattered mask on the table, and had no clue at all. I didn't notice. 100 Tribulations Taoist smiled bitterly, and then said, I think it's because I only cared about drinking tea and neglected practicing. You can't blame others. Long Shirua shook her head and said, most of the powerful warriors in the world have already joined the administration. Other than that, there is only the Xianyuan Palace. There are indeed some scattered warriors among the people, but they are the weakest ones, and it's difficult for them to deal with ordinary monsters and ghosts. Warriors who can threaten you, and a group of them at that, where did they come from? Everyone in the meeting room was silent. Obviously, they didn't know where to start. Where they came from is secondary. What's more important is that this group of mysterious warriors chose this special day when the Ghost Gate was opened to attack. The purpose behind this is really worrying. At this moment, a Taoist elder said with a solemn expression, fortunately, there weren't any flaws in the defense of the Ghost Gate this time. If the defense had failed, the evil ghosts and resentful spirits of the 18 levels of hell would have rushed out, and they would have definitely caused chaos in the divine continent. Long Shirua nodded and said, however, you were ambushed in the dark, and it was a dangerous time to guard the Ghost Gate, but you were able to protect everything, and there were no casualties. I still have to praise you. In short, you worked hard. Actually, it's not all because of us. Castellan Shao smiled bitterly at this time. It was all because of one person that we were able to pass the Ghost Gate. Who? Master Dragon King, do you remember the 70th generation of Tianxin of the Cloth Sect? Shao Xingma said slowly. It's that old ghost. Long Shirua stared blankly for a moment, then came to a realization. The Cloth Sect now only existed in name. Other than Mr. Blind Qing Xiazi, who was the scapegoat of Mount Tai's disaster, there was only the 70th generation of Tianxin, who should have died long ago, but was secretly saved by Shao Xingma using the 10,000 Ghosts Pagoda, the real old ghost. The 70th generation of Mr. Tianxin, although he lost his heavenly eyes and heavenly heart, his divination ability is still extraordinary. Shao Xingma smiled slowly. Earlier, when Ghost City was about to welcome its 1000th day, this Castellan had a sudden impulse and entered the 10,000 Ghosts Pagoda to find Mr. Tianxin and ask about the next millennium of Ghost City's future. Mr. Tianxin made a divination and said that Ghost City would face a bloody disaster in the near future. This Castellan thought about it and was always on guard. Coincidentally, the day of the Ghost Gate's opening arrived, so I thought that if Ghost City was going to welcome a bloody disaster, it might be today, so I made a few more arrangements. Fortunately, although the sneak attack came suddenly, Ghost City is still safe and sound. This old ghost doesn't have his heavenly heart and heavenly eyes, so how can he be so accurate? Kelowna's Shinryu frowned doubtfully. Mr. Tianxin has deep attainments in geomancy divination. Even without the Cloth Sect's heavenly heart and heavenly eyes, he should be one of the best divination masters in Kelowna. Lord Dragon Monarch, don't underestimate the path of divination. I'll enter the 10,000 Ghosts Pagoda. Kelowna's Shinryu suddenly said. Ghost City's Castellan was startled, and so were the Tao Sect's elders. Kelowna's Shinryu had already turned into a stream of light and rushed into Castellan Zhao's sleeve. The 10,000 Ghosts Pagoda was inside Shao Xingma's sleeve. Shao Xingma pulled up his sleeve at this time, as if he didn't know whether to cry or be angry. This? Lord Dragon Monarch, this time, there must be a deep meaning. 100 tribulations, Taoist calmly said, while stroking his beard. Everyone, let's wait for a while. That's true. Xiao Xingma nodded. After all, Kelowna's Shinryu wouldn't be like this if it wasn't important. Perhaps it was an important matter related to the whole Kelowna. Yes, it must be like this. In a small bamboo forest in the 10,000 Ghosts Pagoda, there was the sound of a zither. Kelowna's Shinryu directly knocked away the bamboo leaves and came to a pavilion in the bamboo forest. The 70th generation of the cloth sex Heaven's Heart was playing the zither here. Lord Dragon Monarch, after the farewell in the Punglai treasure house, how are you? Mr. Tianxin of the 70th generation stopped at this time and smiled slightly. I don't know why Lord Dragon Monarch is looking for this old ghost? Kelowna's Shinryu sized up the old man in the pavilion. Aren't you very good at divination? Tell me why I am here? Tianxin of the 70th generation bitterly smiled. Lord Dragon Monarch is Kelowna's Shinryu. Telling you is telling the future of the whole Kelowna. If I can't do it, I will die. TSK. Trash. Kelowna's Shinryu instantly disdained. Tianxin of the 70th generation suddenly changed the topic and said coldly. But if it's just some small things to seek fortune and avoid misfortune, it's still okay. Of course, marriage and whatnot, it's okay. How do you know? Kelowna's Shinryu was startled and stopped talking. She had really rushed in on impulse, intending to ask about marriage. Chapter 1943. Old Geezer Tian Xin, how much power do you have left in your divination? Kelowna's Shinryu suddenly asked in a roundabout manner. 70th Tian Xin said indifferently, not even 10% of when Tian Xion's Heaven's Eye was still around. Long Shirua frowned. Then didn't you still predict that Ghost City would be in trouble? 70th Tian Xion said, it's just according to the divination, I don't know what kind of trouble it is. The reason why Ghost City is safe and sound is because of City Lord Zhao's cautious personality. If City Lord Zhao didn't take it seriously, the result might be different. Kelowna's Shinryu pondered for a moment and suddenly said, do you know why I came to see you? 70th Tian Xin smiled. It can't be because of reminiscing about the past. People in the world come to see this old man for nothing else. There's a pot here. If Lord Long Jun has thought it through, you can shake out the lot. The 70th Heavens will waved his hand, and a wooden cylinder filled with sticks appeared on the stone table in the pavilion. It might not be accurate, but it can be used as a reference. Lord Dragon Monarch, there is no need to worry. She looked at the pot and after a while, she stretched out her hand. But when she was about to grab the pot, she suddenly stopped. Forget it, I don't want to harm you. 70th Tian Xion smiled. It's said that those who reveal heaven's secrets will not have a good ending. This old man already doesn't have a good ending, turning into a wandering ghost and struggling at death's door. I can only be like this in the future, it won't get any worse. At most, my soul will be destroyed. Since Cloth Dao is gone, there's no use for me to stay. Kelowna's Shinryu frowned. Isn't your disciple Qing Xiazi still wandering outside? 70th Tian Xin said. After Mount Tai's incident, Qing Xiazi no longer has anything to do with Cloth Dao. Even if Tian Xion's Heaven's Eye is with Qing Xiazi, it has nothing to do with this old man. Cloth Dao's mission is over. Xian Yuan Palace's princess has said that Cloth Dao should no longer exist in this world. Since that's the case, let the plainclothes path come to a true end in my hands. You! Kelowna's Shinryu was stunned. Let this old man perform the last divination for Lord Dragon Monarch. With that, the 70th Heavens will waved his hand and the lots on the pot shot out. They lined up and wrapped around Long Shirua. Keep this divination. Long Shirua frowned and swept away these pieces of paper with a clap. Who would have thought that the 70th Heaven's Heart's eyes would suddenly light up? He stretched out his hand and grabbed one of the scattered lot. He said loudly, "Thank you, Lord Dragon Monarch, for giving me this lot." Old Devil Tian Xion, you! Long Shirua was shocked. please listen to the sign. The 70th heaven's heart raised the lot in his hands and said loudly, Lot 6, Lot 9, Lot chosen. Second time. Don't read it. Kelowna's Shinryu's body shone with golden light. However, before the golden light could be released, the 70th heaven's will had already collapsed. Only his voice was left. The poem says, in winter there are plum blossoms on the mountain, the leaves fall and the branches wither. But when spring arrives, I am still the top flower. When spring comes, the colors will be there. Second time, Lord Dragon Monarch, please remember, this old man is leaving. In an instant, the small bamboo forest in Wangui Tower turned into a ball of thick white fog. When the true dragon's power completely dispelled the white fog, there was chaos and darkness in front of her. Long Shirua slowly breathed a sigh of relief. She saw a stick on her head slowly falling and finally falling into her hand. What's the point of this? She laughed bitterly. Although the matter of Mount Tai was over, although Qing Xiazi took the blame for Lai Caixing's departure, the 70th heavens will still chose to stop this sex mistake. Dozens of years ago, you also exchanged your own death for Qing Xiazi's life. Now that his soul is destroyed, it's the same. Kelowna's Shinryu scolded bitterly. Is Qing Xiazi your illegitimate son? Old devil! In the empty chaos, there was no response. The 70th heavens will had disappeared in front of her after the last divination. In the Ghost City's City Lord Mansion's meeting hall, a golden light flashed. Kelowna's Shinryu appeared in front of Xiao Shengma and the others again. The changes in Wangui Tower naturally couldn't escape Xiao Shengma's senses. The Ghost City's City Lord's face was dark as he asked tentatively, Lord Dragon Monarch, Mr. Tion Xen. From now on, there's no cotton gown sect in this world. Long Shirua said expressionlessly, Qing Xiazi is no longer the successor of cotton gown sect. He has nothing to do with cotton gown sect. If Qing Xiazi does anything to harm Kelowna again, kill him without mercy. This 100 Tribulations Taoist frowned, and then fell into silence. This seemed to be the most severe punishment. If Qing Xiazi committed another crime, he would be killed without mercy. If Qing Xiazi committed another crime, did that mean the matter of Mount Tai was over? The meeting of transcendence will be held tomorrow, Kelowna's Shinryu said indifferently. If there's nothing else, your Dao sect can attend on time. Xiao Shengma, it's up to you whether you want to go or not. It's getting late, I won't stay in Ghost City. With that, the true dragon of the Divine Prefecture turned into a stream of light and fled into the night sky like a shooting star, disappearing in an instant. City Lord Xiao. What happened in Ghost Pagoda? 100 Tribulations Taoist asked in silence. Xiao Shengma smiled bitterly. I respect Mr. Tion Xian very much. I promised Mr. Tion Xian that I wouldn't spy on him in Ghost Pagoda. Taoist, forgive me for not being able to answer your question. Fine. 100 Tribulations Taoist shook his head and thought for a while. No matter what, since it's Lord Long Jun's order, I'll definitely warn the Dao sect members. As for the demon race, I'm afraid there's nothing I can do. Ghost City actually belonged to the Demon Race Association. However, because of the special nature of Ghost City wasn't affected by the Mount Tai disaster at all. Strictly speaking, not only did Ghost City have no enmity with Cotton Gown Sect, but it even received Cotton Gown Sect's favor because of Tion Xian's guidance on the layout of Ghost City's feng shui. Naturally, Ghost Race won't make things difficult for Mr. Tion Xian's last disciple. If so, we'll go first. 100 Tribulations Taoist cupped his hands and said, City Lord Xiao, are you willing to attend tomorrow's meeting? Xiao Shengma waved his hand and said, This is a matter of the human world. This 3-inch land of the netherworld has nothing to do with the matters of the living world. Take care. As for the attack on Ghost Gate, I'll investigate it myself. Taoist, please take care of the meeting first. Don't worry. We're going. Thousands of miles of light. Thousands of miles away in Kelowna, the night sky was dotted with stars. Shinryu of Kelowna stopped above the clouds to enjoy the wind. It was slightly cold. Double strike, double strike. What kind of lousy lot is this? Do it twice? Shinryu of Kelowna muttered. At least explain it clearly. Old Mr. Tian Xin. Bah! Stupid sign. Damn. The true dragon of the divine land shook his head, and remembered that he had encountered a wisp of sword energy from Xianyuan of the 9 states before he went out. He planned to go to Xianyuan Palace before going home and ask about Gongsunxiu. Before setting off, the true dragon of the divine land swooped down and picked up the talisman that had been thrown out. Then it turned around and turned into a ray of light, shooting towards the east sea of the divine land. Mister, did something happen? In the middle of the endless desert, in the middle of the dusty camp, a white-haired man in plain clothes with his eyes closed suddenly turned to face the sky. The white-haired man with his eyes closed suddenly stood up. They saw that his eyes, which had never opened before, were now shedding 2 streams of tears. Then, the man directly knelt down in the direction of the east, kneeling on the ground and kowtowing heavily. The people in the camp looked at this mister in surprise. They regarded this mister as a god because he could always predict the future. We won't travel tonight. The man straightened his back. I want to keep watch tonight. They didn't know why this god wanted to keep watch tonight, but since this god said so, they had to do it. This mister was always right. Because of the curfew in the city, there were fewer people on the street at dusk. On the slightly deserted street, Mr. Jean walked aimlessly through the old street. Along the way, Mr. Jean beat up several groups of energetic young men who gathered to worship the transcendent. They were dressed in seductive clothes and danced on the ground with cement, but he didn't feel anything special. He felt, it's time to go back. Mr. Jean thought. However, he promised Bebe that he would buy ice cream pudding before he went out. Luckily, he found a shop on the way back. Mr. Jean also bought enough food for everyone for several days. When he passed by an alley, Mr. Jean subconsciously walked in. Perhaps, he planned to beat up the energetic young men one last time before he went back. However, to his disappointment, the energetic young men didn't seem to be energetic during this awkward time when the curfew was about to arrive. In the empty alley, there was only a stray dog lying in the corner. It should be a Chinese rural dog. Mr. Jean walked to the front of the stray dog. The stray dog didn't even look at him and just lay there listlessly. Where's your master? Mr. Jean squatted down. He saw the rope around the stray dog's neck, which meant that the stray dog should be raised by someone, but the stray dog still ignored Mr. Jean's question. Are you waiting for your master? Mr. Jean showed a smile. This seemed to be the first smile since he left. Mr. Jean even took out a piece of bread from the shopping bag and put it in front of the stray dog after breaking it open. Have you been abandoned? Mr. Jean suddenly asked. However, the pastoral dog was still weak at this time. He slowly got up and then staggered into the depths of the alley. Don't eat. It's quite intelligent, is it a monster? Mr. Jean suddenly said. The stray dog didn't seem to hear him. It found a more secluded place in the depths of the alley and curled up, like a lonely and autistic patient. Mr. Jean frowned. When he was about to do something, his eyes suddenly froze. Mr. Jean instantly stood up. Outside the alley, a figure appeared out of nowhere, as if to see him. The figure quietly watched him come in. Mr. Jean slowly got up, walked to the exit of the alley, and met the person. It shouldn't be the appointed time yet. Why are you looking for me? While speaking, Mr. Jean also looked at the figure in front of him. In front of him was a face that seemed to never smile. For Mr. Jean, the person was very young. Also, one of the young man's hands was broken, and he was currently wearing a silver artificial hand. Gongsun Jishui. This was the one thing that Mr. Jean knew the most about this young man, the young man's name. Apart from that, everything about him was like a cloud of fog for Mr. Jean. I'm here to see you and bring you something. While speaking, the young man, Gongsun Jishui directly threw a small bottle to Mr. Jean. He took the small bottle in his hand and gently shook it a few times. The sound of the pills inside hitting the bottle indicated that there were quite a few pills inside. Mr. Jean was silent for a moment, and then said indifferently, "I have more." "It's not enough for you," Gongsun Jishui said indifferently, "according to the amount you should take and the extra amount you take." Mr. Jean didn't speak. He just silently put away the bottle, and then said indifferently, "Is there anything else?" "No." Gongsun Jishui said indifferently, and then nodded, "Good night." He turned and left. Mr. Jean just watched the mysterious Gongsun Jishui disappear in the deserted street, just like that day when this mysterious young man suddenly appeared in front of him. "Do you want revenge for those transcendents who took away everything from you?" "Yes." He didn't hesitate at that time, and he didn't hesitate now. Mr. Jean took a deep breath, and his forehead seemed to start to ache again. He seemed to think of something, suddenly looked into the depth of the alley, and then walked in again. He walked up to the dispirited pastoral dog and reached out to pick up the dog's leash. "I don't care if you understand or not. Since you've given up hope on this world, follow me. At least you'll be able to make a living. I'm not giving up on this world. I just don't want to see people. Forget it." The field dog slowly stood up. Now it was just a dog, a dog, a dog. After leaving Mr. Luo's house and getting a small pill of unknown use, it simply took a taxi from the Witch of the World Academies and ran out of the city. The so-called clue was only a pill whose use and origin were unknown. It was time for him to actively exert his subjective initiative and create the conditions for himself. Let the pill speak for itself. It sounded incredible, but for Master Xing Chuang, who had the star creation technique, the formation of all things, and could grant life, it was just a piece of cake. This is simply a freebie question. The car stopped at a place where it could feel power. Nan Xiaonan instantly ran to a deserted tree and squatted down. She rubbed her fingers, skillfully drawing the technique of Xing Chuang to give life to the pill. Speaking of which, didn't I make a kitchen knife in Wally's castle? When the pill was being born, Nan Xiaonan couldn't help but think of Xing Chuang. Then, I'm a pill. An emotionless pill. Great clear pill. A small life was born. End of chapter. Chapter 1944. In the end, Kelowna's Shinryu didn't arrive at the gate of Xianyuan Palace on the coast of the East China Sea. This was somewhere in the hinterland of the Central Plains in ancient times. Long Shirua sensed a familiar aura. It was Chichikamaya's aura in the mountains. In a small villa in the suburbs, Long Shirua saw Guiqiani, the head of Koan department of Xianyuan Palace, and Ghost Baby walking out with crutches as soon as she landed in the courtyard. Not only these two fellows, there were at least 10 Koan tribe demon warriors standing guard around the villa. In addition, there was also a masked woman wearing the official robes of the Xianyuan Palace Wang family. She's the substitute Suzy Juan that brat mentioned? Long Shirua looked at the masked woman who looked uneasy. What's your name? The masked woman didn't dare to speak directly. She looked at Chichikamaya and Ghost Child as if asking for help. The dirty old turtle said slowly, "This is Kelowna's Dragon Sama. She should already know about your situation. It's okay to tell her." Jessica. Jessica. The masked woman had no choice but to introduce herself. Long Shirua frowned and glared at the masked woman. "Jessica," she said, "I'll put aside the matter between you and that brat. Chichikamaya, come with me. I have something to ask you." Kelowna's Shinryu walked into the villa. Ghost Child was about to speak when Chichikamaya shook his head. "Ghost Child, take Miss Jessica away. I'll deal with Lord Long. She won't make things difficult for me." "You don't have to worry," Ghost Child said expressionlessly. "I'm not worried at all. Even if Shinryu Sama wants to hang you up and beat you, I won't be able to help. Even if you die, you'll die in vain. So I have nothing to worry about." "Deduct my salary? You've never given me a salary." The dirty old turtle almost fainted from anger. In the end, Ghost Child still brought Jessica to the side. After sorting out his thoughts, Chichi-Kamiya walked into the hall of the villa. At this moment, Kelowna Shinryu took out a bottle of beer from the fridge and sat on the sofa. He seemed to be thinking about something. As soon as Chichi-Kamiya came in, his face was already full of smiles. Miss Jessica has been staying in the Xianyuan Palace to replace the princess. Sooner or later, she will be exposed. Seeing that the Kelowna summit is about to begin, this old man simply brought her out and told the public that the Xianyuan Palace will also be attending this summit. I just happened to pass by this place, but I didn't expect Lord Long to come. As I said, I don't have time to care about this absurd matter for the time being. I have long had nothing to do with the Xianyuan Palace. Long Shirua said indifferently, I came here specifically to look for you. Lord Long is looking for this old man? Chichi-Kamiya was stunned. May I know why? I remember you said that you saw Gongsun Shiu's death at the Spirit Chi Rift in Mount Tai, right? Yes, this old man did say that, and I saw it with my own eyes. Chichi-Kamiya nodded, then frowned and said, Is there something wrong with this matter? Today, someone activated Jiuzhou Xuanyuan's sword energy. Shinryu Kelowna said directly. Could it be the princess's doing? Chichi-Kamiya said subconsciously, No, if it was the princess's doing, Lord Long must know. So, this has something to do with Gongsun Shiu? I suspect that he didn't die at all. Long Shirua nodded. Other than me and Zijuan, Gongsun Shiu is the only one in Kelowna who can activate Jiuzhou Xuanyuan's sword energy due to his talent. If he is truly dead, this sword energy shouldn't have appeared. Chichi-Kamiya said in a low voice, In fact, Gongsun Shiu is truly dead. His body was personally dug out by this old man and brought back to the Xianyuan Palace. This matter. Division Leader Qian also personally verified it. It is indeed Gongsun Shiu. Because of Gongsun Shiu, Division Leader Qian Kuan is currently imprisoned in the glacial pond. Are you sure? It's not that this old man is sure, but the body was cremated and buried under the witness of 2 divisions of the Xianyuan Palace. It can't be wrong. That's strange. I can't have sensed Jiuzhou Xianyuan wrongly. Long Shirua frowned. However, Yen Xiaoxi told me confidently that the person called himself Gongsun Shiu. Jiuzhou Xianyuan did appear at that time. Although he didn't activate it, his aura was very strong. Yen Xiaoxi. That old man's last disciple, the one from the Kelowna administration? Chichi-Kamiya asked in a low voice, Lord Long, can you tell this old man what happened? I'm afraid you'll have to ask him personally when you arrive. Long Shirua thought for a moment and said, I was out for other matters. I encountered this when I was out, but I didn't know the details. Forget it, come with me to meet Yen Xiaoxi. That's the only way. Chichi-Kamiya nodded. In that case, this old man will go and get ready. The trip to the Xianyuan Palace was just for a short rest. They would definitely be able to make it on the first day of the summit, because there were demons in the Kuan tribe who were good at flying. Traveling thousands of miles in a day was a piece of cake for them. Seeing that Chichi-Kamiya was about to get ready, Kelowna Shinryu suddenly opened his mouth. Old Tortoise, wait. Do you know how to interpret the lot? Interpret what? Chichi-Kamiya was stunned. Long Shirua said angrily, Interpret the lot of the lot. Do you know how to interpret the lot? Chichi-Kamiya looked at Kelowna Shinryu suspiciously, but he quickly said, This old man knows a thing or two about the lot. Lord Long, why don't you tell me the content of the lot? Forget it, it's all right. Go and get ready. Kelowna Shinryu said indifferently, Hurry up. I have a feeling that something will happen during this summit. How could he have the nerve to say something like a second time? Moreover, he was asking about marriage. If he really said that, with this old tortoise's big mouth, wouldn't it become the biggest gossip in the whole Kelowna Transcendence world in less than 3 days? She took out the lot and sighed. Actually, she could interpret the lot herself, but she couldn't stop herself from thinking the wrong way. God knew why she would think the wrong way so easily. Kelowna Shinryu pursed his lips and said to himself, "If this old woman really does it twice, can you stand it?" Of course, the lot couldn't be interpreted in such a violent way. But it was the year 0202 now. Kelowna Shinryu put away the lot and took a short rest while Chichi Kamaya was getting ready. She had a dream. In the dream, she was in the market of the Ghost Kingdom's divine palace. She wasn't Kelowna Shinryu, but just a rich girl who had a hard life. He wasn't the boss of that place, but a poor scholar who was preparing to go to the capital for the imperial examination but died of illness in a foreign place. She dropped a hairpin, and he picked it up from the crowd and put it on for her. It was like a poem or a painting, and everything seemed very beautiful. Then, all of a sudden, the poor scholar transformed into a male model wearing a black see-through suit and tight pants. He stood in front of the colorful neon lights and told her with a smile that it only cost 800 yuan for one time, 1,500 yuan for a night, 500 yuan for a whip, and another 1,000 yuan for a mouth without a problem. Roar! The rich girl immediately shouted, lifted her skirt, and rushed forward. She didn't expect that the surroundings would suddenly become white and hazy. The ghost market disappeared, and then a girl with long blonde hair rushed out with a 40-meter-long flagpole. The rich girl was no match for the blonde girl and was pressed to the ground. Then the blonde girl directly sat on the rich girl's body and constantly patted the rich girl's chest. She kept saying that she was a shameless coquettish fox. What use would a lowly bee's fat have? However, at this critical moment, a golden light suddenly flashed in the sky, and the whole night sky was illuminated by the golden Buddha's light. A 9-colored lotus platform appeared in the sky. They saw a solemn-looking big-breasted thing sitting on the 9-colored lotus platform. It was delivering salvation to the world, and the blonde girl was also driven away. So big, so big, so big, so big! The rich girl was suddenly submerged in the sea of breasts, drifting with the waves to the ends of the world. Save me! When Chichi Kamaya took care of everything at the fastest speed, and then came back with Ghost Baby, intending to tell Kelowna that the Shinryu could set off, he found that Long Shirual was lying on the floor at this time. Her hands were randomly flapping, like a drowning person. Could it be that Lord Long is practicing some kind of technique? Ghost Baby asked hesitantly. Chichi Kamaya pondered for a moment, and then suddenly said, "It is said that Chern Tuan has a technique that can only be practiced in his sleep. Could it be this one? Should we wake up Lord Long?" Ghost Baby shook his head. "Of course, go wake her up." Chichi Kamaya thought for a moment and said. Ghost Baby pointed at himself expressionlessly. Chichi Kamaya nodded affirmatively. Ghost Baby rolled his eyes, turned around and walked out, letting Chichi Kamaya die. About half an hour later, the people of Xianyuan Palace rode on the flying demon beast and set off. On the back of the flying demon beast, the disguised Jessica curiously looked at Chichi Kamaya, whose left eye was black, and asked, "Lord Turtle, why are you injured?" "I am practicing a peerless technique." Chichi Kamaya sat cross-legged with a calm face. "After this peerless technique is mastered, it can shock the heavens and crack the earth. A black eye is the symbol of this technique. When both my eyes are black, my eyes can shoot out black flames and burn the earth. So powerful! Kelowna's technique is really powerful, even her gaze can kill people." Miss Jessica was stunned by his words. She subconsciously looked back, only to see the legendary Kelowna Shinryu hanging behind the flying demon beast, and seemed to be muttering something. However, the wind was too loud, and she couldn't hear anything clearly, but it seemed to be cursing. "She actually said that I am only good at B, damn it. This damned bad woman." Jessica felt a strong murderous aura because of this. "You are back." In front of the second-hand electrical shop in the alley, the college girl Bibi walked out of the half-open door and took the food in Mr. Kim's hand. "I came back late. Did something happen on the way?" Nothing, I was walking and forgot the time. Mr. Kim shook his head and said. At this time, the girl Bibi was curiously looking behind Mr. Kim. There was a dejected pastoral dog. This is? It looked interesting, so I picked it up, Mr. Kim said casually. Maybe it is a monster, but it can't turn into a human in the city. Who knows? The girl Bibi was startled and then shook her head. If it was a monster, it would have died long ago. Mr. Kim, you are joking again. Has Lawrence and the others returned? Mr. Kim suddenly asked. They are all back in the workshop downstairs. The girl Bibi smiled and said, Lawrence seems to be in a good mood. He should have bought a lot of useful things, but Maeve and Chernguo don't seem to be in a good mood. Get some food for it. Mr. Kim gave the leash to Bibi, opened the floor under the counter, and walked down. The person in charge of gathering information was called Bernard, and he had several degrees in science and engineering. As for Lawrence, he was originally an arms dealer, and later he was the only one left on the street. Maeve was simpler, she used to be a prostitute who went astray. Chernguo was about the same age as Bibi and was a stage actress. How did these people get together? Just a few months ago they were all very ordinary members of the common people. Mr. Kim looked at the busy people in the workshop, and this question couldn't help but appear in his mind. At this moment, Maeve saw that Mr. Kim had returned and said directly, Guogua and I have been watching for a whole day. The number of guards at the venue has obviously increased, and the intensity of the inspection has also increased. Not to mention sneaking in, we might not even find a chance in the outer areas. We shouldn't have launched this attack, it made them more vigilant. That's good, Mr. Kim said indifferently. When people only focus on one place, they will subconsciously ignore other things. Do you actually have some other plan that you haven't told us? Bernard stopped typing on the keyboard. You will know very soon, Mr. Kim said indifferently, and then looked around. Remember, what I want to do is the same as all of you. I have long been prepared to not give up no matter what the sacrifice is, right? Maeve shrugged. I have sweated all day, I am going to take a shower. Mr. Kim didn't say anything, and quickly returned to the small house by himself, locking the door. He pushed the messy table to an empty space, and then took out the new medicine bottle, poured out the pills inside, and then carefully counted the quantity. After a while, Mr. Kim took out another bottle. It was the one he had been using. He still poured out the pills and also counted them. Suddenly, Mr. Kim frowned. He realized that one of the pills in his bottle was missing at some point in time. I don't think I ate too much. Mr. Kim couldn't help but frown at this time. Outside the second-hand electrical appliance store, a short-haired woman came in when the last ray of the setting sun disappeared from the alley. She put her hands in her pockets, looking down at the shutter of the electrical appliance store, the lock on it. Now, she seemed to be unable to resist inserting the keyhole when she saw it. She just couldn't stop. Nan Xiaonan. Is that it, the origin of the pill? When he took a closer look, he could see that there was actually a great clear pill hidden in her hair. I am emotionless. Okay, stop talking. Chapter 1945. Bei cut a piece of meat from the frozen steak and waved it in front of the pastoral dog. The meat wriggled like an earthworm, but the pastoral dog didn't seem to have a high appetite, to the extent that it didn't even have any. Ever since it was tricked into this second-hand electrical shop, it had been crawling in a corner. There was even a shelf next to it. It had completely hidden itself in this narrow but unusually safe place. I thought I was already a shut-in, but I didn't expect you to be even more shut-in than me. What's your name? I'll call you Xiaobei, okay? Bei squatted down and cupped his chin with his hands. My name is Bei. Hello. The pastoral dog, Xiaobei, who had just gotten a name, didn't seem to hear anything. It didn't even raise its drooping ears. It really looked like a useless dog. However, the girl seemed to have turned on a switch and started talking to herself. In the end, Xiaobei still didn't eat the beef. Suddenly, the sound of the door being knocked came from outside. The girl who was talking to herself stood up in an instant. In the instant that she stood up, she held the knife used to cut the beef and pressed it against her arm. His gaze also became abnormally cold. At this moment, Xiao Bei opened his eyes slightly. After taking a look, he went back to his original state, as if he had lost interest in life. The sound of the door being knocked hadn't stopped yet. Bei Bei walked closer and put his ear closer to the door, listening carefully. At the same time, he looked at the scene on the screen. The person knocking on the door was a girl with short hair. Bei Bei frowned. After thinking for a while, he pulled down his sleeve and hid the knife in his hand as he opened the side door. "What's the matter? We're already closed." Bei Bei looked at the short-haired girl and said apologetically. A relatively young girl walked out. She looked to be around 19 or 20 years old. Nan Xiaonan opened her mouth and said, "I saw that your lights were still on, so I wanted to find something." Bei Bei frowned and said, "Find something?" Nan Xiaonan nodded and said, "I wanted to get a second-hand washing machine. I got off work too late and the other places were all closed. I just happened to see that there was still light on here, so I had to give it a try. You know that there's a curfew at night, so it's not convenient to buy things." "Washing machine?" Nan Xiaonan nodded and said, "I just started working here. I rented an apartment in the village in the city over there. I haven't even packed my things yet. There are too many things to wash. A semi-automatic one is fine too. Use it first." "Sorry, we don't have the washing machine you want here." Bei Bei shook his head. "If that's the case," Nan Xiaonan said regretfully, "then can I go in and take a look? I want to see if there are any cheap and useful home appliances. I think I need an induction cooker too." "No." Bei Bei still shook his head. "You should go somewhere else tomorrow. I'm going to close the shop." "Pretty girl, just let me have a look. It's very hard for us, who are new to the Labor Party. It's such a big second-hand shop. There must be an induction cooker or something, right?" Nan Xiaonan said bitterly. "What happened?" At this moment, a man's voice came from the second-hand electrical appliance store. Bei Bei hurriedly looked in. Boss, there's a lady here who says she wants to come in and buy something. What do you want to buy?" Nan Xiaonan poked her head in while Bei Bei wasn't paying attention. "Washing machine and induction cooker. You're the boss? Do me a favor, I just moved here. My landlord is so stingy. It's really inconvenient tonight." Bei Bei frowned and directly grabbed Nan Xiaonan's arm. "Let her in." The man in the store, Boss Jean, said indifferently. "Boss is still a good person." At this moment, Nan Xiaonan giggled as she lightly slapped away Bei Bei's hand that was grabbing her, and directly entered the electrical appliance store. "We have the things you want here," Boss Jean said indifferently, "but it's so late, how are you going to carry them back? At this time, you won't be able to call for people to pick them up. There's no one on the streets at night." "It's okay, it's not far. It's just across the road. I can carry them myself." Nan Xiaonan patted her biceps and said, "Ever since I fell out of love, I've gained muscle. The next time I see my ex-boyfriend, I'll definitely beat him to death." Boss Jean looked at her expressionlessly. Then, he slowly walked to one side and took out an old induction cooker from the shelf. He pointed to the other side and said, "There's only this induction cooker. There are 3 washing machines here. You can take the one you like." "How much is this?" Nan Xiaonan directly pointed to the one in the middle and asked. $150. Boss Jean said indifferently, "No bargaining. If you want it, take it. If you don't, close the door." "Boss, you do business?" Nan Xiaonan opened her mouth. Boss Jean stared at her without saying a word. Nan Xiaonan could only say, "Including this induction cooker, how about 180? Mr. Jean suddenly asked, "Where do you live?" Nan Xiaonan said casually, "In the village in the city across the road. It's not very far." Mr. Jean said indifferently, "Give me 230 and I'll carry it over for you." Nan Xiaonan opened her mouth, as if she was caught unprepared. At the same time, Bei was slowly approaching from behind. The light of a lethal weapon could be seen in his hand. He had already quietly raised the knife behind Nan Xiaonan's back. Nan Xiaonan opened her mouth and said, "It's just crossing the road, and you want to charge me 50? Boss, you're too deceptive. Do you think I'm a foreigner, so you're bullying me? Then tell me how much." Boss Jean said indifferently. 30. Nan Xiaonan clenched her teeth. "If it's this price, then I'll carry it myself." Then 30. Boss Jean nodded. Bei was startled, but in the end, he quietly moved back a little. The tip of the knife silently moved away from Nan Xiaonan's neck. Nan Xiaonan grinned. "Anyway, Boss Jean, right? Can I pay 10 yuan for this old fan?" "You're very greedy," Boss Jean said suddenly. Nan Xiaonan blinked her eyes. "Women are all greedy, but little women are even greedier." "Take it," Boss Jean said indifferently. "What else do you want?" "Take it all. We may not open tomorrow." "Not for now. Bei, you carry these 2 things," Boss Jean said directly. "I'll carry the big ones." The wheels of the handcart made a particularly loud sound on the street. Boss Jean pulled the washing machine and walked in front of them. "By the way, I'm Nan Xiaonan, and you?" Nan Xiaonan and Bei were walking together on the footbridge that led to the opposite side of the road. Bei. What a cute name. Nan Xiaonan smiled, then lowered her voice and said, "Your boss doesn't seem to like to talk much. He's quite fierce." Bei smiled. "The boss doesn't like to talk much, but he's very nice." Nan Xiaonan nodded, then asked casually, "Your second-hand shop has been open for a long time, right? Are you locals?" "It's been a while," Bei said casually. "We're not from here, so we're not very familiar with this place. It's not safe in the city recently, so we don't dare to run around." "That's right," Nan Xiaonan complained bitterly. "It's hard to find a job. It's not easy to find one, but the salary is only a little bit. Oh right, I heard that the nearby one-mansion spa center is hiring. Do you know about it? What do you think of that place? Is it decent?" "I'm not sure." Bei shook his head. "Do you want to work in that kind of place?" "I'm just asking." Nan Xiaonan smiled casually. At this moment, Boss Jean suddenly stopped. "We've crossed the road. Where should we go in?" "Follow the arch, it's about 100 meters away. It's on the 3rd floor, not very high." Nan Xiaonan said quickly. "It's just that the corridor is a bit narrow." "It's okay." They didn't say anything else, and they covered the distance of 100 meters in a moment. It was an old house in a narrow alley, nothing special. Boss Jean didn't say anything, but directly carried the washing machine and went up the corridor. He stopped in front of the iron door on the 3rd floor, then said indifferently, "Open the door." Nan Xiaonan said, "Wait a moment, I'll clean it up. It's a bit messy inside." Nan Xiaonan quickly opened the door, and then directly entered the rented house, and closed the door. Unexpectedly, Boss Jean at this time suddenly stretched out his hand, grabbed the door panel, and directly pushed the door panel open with force. "What are you doing? I told you to wait a moment." Nan Xiaonan screamed as if her tail had been stepped on. Boss Jean opened his mouth, but didn't say anything, and let Nan Xiaonan close the door again. "This woman is quite sloppy," Bei said coldly. The moment Boss Jean opened the door, she saw the inside of the house clearly. It was indeed a mess, and there were several red, purple and black underwear hanging on the wall. "It seems that she's really here to buy things," Bei said in a low voice. "Let's wait and see," Boss Jean said indifferently. Bei nodded silently. After a while, Nan Xiaonan opened the door again. One room, one bathroom, and there wasn't even a so-called kitchen, only a small table with some convenient kitchen utensils in the room. The clothes on the anti-theft net at the window had been collected. This was a typical single-person dormitory in a village in the city. It was dark, humid and stuffy. Boss Jean didn't say anything, and directly carried the washing machine inside, then began to install it. It's a bit messy, sorry. It's okay. They talked about some unimportant things outside. It seemed that it was easier for women to communicate with each other. Sister Xiaonan, why did you think of coming here to work? I'm looking forward to the big city. Nan Xiaonan opened a bottle of beer and sat down, looking up at the window and said, I've been looking forward to it since I was young, but when I came to the big city, I found it was just like that. Your family? I don't have a family. Nan Xiaonan shook her head. One person can eat his fill, and the whole family won't be hungry. I'm sorry, I didn't know, yes. Nan Xiaonan shook her head, her eyes downcast. It's okay, I've been used to it. I almost don't remember what my parents look like. This key. Bei curiously looked at the key pendant around Nan Xiaonan's neck. This. Nan Xiaonan lowered her head, fiddling with the key pendant, then shook her head and put it away. It's not important, I just bought it because it looks special. Bei didn't ask further. It's done. Take a look, if there's no problem, we'll leave. Boss Jean directly walked out at this moment, quite straightforward. Nan Xiaonan said there was no problem after checking it, so Boss Jean directly left with Bei, still very straightforward. Thank you. If I need anything else, I'll come to you again, boss. Remember to give me a good price. She watched the two leave in the corridor. Downstairs, Boss Jean raised his head and looked around, only to see Bei come back after making a round. He shook his head and said, Nothing suspicious. Boss Jean directly walked into a small store, looking at an auntie with a waste bag in front of the counter, asking, Are you the landlord of this building? Housekeeper? The auntie looked at him with confusion. I want to ask you something. Boss Jean thought for a while. The woman on the third floor, did she just move here? The auntie frowned and said vigilantly, Why do you ask this? At this moment, Bei hurriedly walked over and intimately held onto Boss Jin's arm. She smiled sweetly and said, It's like this, lady boss. This is my big brother. He just bumped into that big sister upstairs. She's a little interesting, so he wants to ask about her. My elder brother is very nice, but his family is a bit anxious, so is he himself. Can you do me a favor? She gave the lady boss some consultation fees, discreetly. You don't look like bad people. The auntie took out the money with a smile, then sighed. Speaking of which, this girl is quite pitiful. She's been looking for a house here for several days, but she didn't find it expensive, so she didn't get it. I thought she was quite pitiful, so I rented it to her at a cheap price. Is her life very miserable? Bei asked curiously. She lost her parents a long time ago, it's miserable enough. The auntie sighed. Look, she had a boyfriend who was about to get married, but he suddenly passed away a few months ago. I don't know the exact reason, and it's not good to ask, right? This girl doesn't have it easy. That day when she moved in, there was a pile of stuff downstairs. I kindly wanted to help her call someone to carry it upstairs, but she insisted on carrying it all by herself. She's very tired and actually didn't save much money. Bei and Boss Jean looked at each other, then Bei smiled. Then, madam, do you know where she works? I'm not very sure, but these days she goes out early in the morning and comes back around this time. All right, thank you, lady boss. Bei nodded at this moment. I have her phone number, do you want it? Just don't tell her that I told you, the Almighty said with a smile. No need. Bei said casually. It's more sincere to ask this kind of thing personally. Sorry to disturb you, madam. You're welcome. Come to my shop often in the future. Many girls passed by here before. They had already walked away. Bei was in charge of cooking. A group of people sat around a wooden table and ate, not talking much. Maeve was eating and asked curiously, Where's the boss? Doesn't he eat? I don't know, he went to the small room after coming back. Bei shook his head. They looked at Boss Jin's small room at the same time. He never let people in. Of course, there were no secrets inside. After all, they had just come to this second-hand shop, including Mr. Jean himself. It was only half a month ago that he bought this second-hand shop. Speaking of which, isn't this dog a little ugly? Is it? It's called Xiao Bei. Bei protested, how is it ugly? Just like that, they talked about random things as if they were family. Their voices didn't reach the small room. Even if they did, Mr. Jean probably couldn't hear them clearly, because he was wearing headphones at the moment, and there was an open suitcase on the table. Eavesdropping equipment. Dead cockroach. I'll beat you to death. I'll beat you to death. You're still running. You're still running. Die. Aya, my leg, my leg. I'm alone, I'll eat instant noodles. Of course, I'll have a slice of cheese. This trashy TV series is getting uglier and uglier. If I continue to be a member, I'll be a pig. The sound of eating noodles. All of a sudden, the chattering stopped, and there was complete silence. Mr. Jean frowned, reaching out to turn the knob in the suitcase. Then, a sobbing sound slowly entered his ears. It rushed into his heart.